Do you know that trees in the northern hemisphere actually communicate with trees in the southern hemisphere through their roots? Because the root of a tree can go all the way around the world.
Stimulating late-night sports conversation for people who know that just trying to find someone sober to talk to at this time of night is like trying to find a pig on the moon.
In the early morning mist I see.
No rules news debate from around the world and around the bend. The two mics.
Apply more lager.
On Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Look at the light!
I simply can't work out Los Angeles.
Who are you?
It's just like a very weird
Who are you?
community.
Who are you?
A bunch of screwballs.
This is Talk Sport, and it's time to say a very, very good morning. Welcome back to Mr. Mike. Who are you? Porky Parry. Very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Mike. What's this distraction of who are you?
Well, he's lost another game.
I know, I was
going
to say. He lost again.
Yeah, so that's 7 losses, I think, since his managerial career took off again at QPR.
Yeah, not good, is it?
Couple of wins.
But listen, I have to offer my total congratulations to Millwall, who, pulling out the bag there.
Yes.
It was a terrific victory.
Fantastic.
3-0 over Bournemouth.
Absolutely brilliant.
Don't know why Eddie Howe played a weakened team, you see, because he's not in Europe.
Well, he's made the most ridiculous comment, did he not? I was watching him after the game, and he said, well, of course, if we'd known we were going to play this badly, otherwise he says we, because he presumably means I, then we might have played a different team. Yeah. But we didn't think we would play this badly. Yeah. What does that mean?
Mixed thinking, that. But again, other people have questioned it over the weekend. If you're not in danger of relegation and Bournemouth aren't, if you're not involved in Europe and Bournemouth aren't, why
are you resting players?
Why are you resting players who could have got you through to the FA Cup final? Don't you remember when Stoke got there a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, it literally lifts a town for months and months and months.
Yeah.
You feel good about it a month before the FA Cup final, you feel great about it for the 6 weeks afterwards to the next season, and it renews hope.
Although presumably it's not as much fun as actually going and winning it.
Well, of course it's not as much fun as winning it. Nobody likes to be a loser, but nevertheless, it keeps the fans' interest in your club going right till the end of the season.
Yeah.
Which won't, of course, now happen to Everton.
Well, Everton now out of the Cup. I mean, some have said, in a rather, I would say, depressing way, that their season is now over in January. Again.
Well, I'm going to the City game, which is on Sunday. Yeah, Everton City.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Well, funny thing
is... The jinx is very strong when you're actually there.
It's funny you should say that. The last time we tried to go north in this country... fog stopped us from going from Heathrow.
Yes.
I'm told that Sunday could be the coldest day of the year.
Well, they're predicting a lot of snow.
-10. Yeah. They're talking about -10 in the north of England.
I've got one of my kids' birthdays coming up this weekend, and there's supposed to be a lot of driving going on, and there's already been made, alternative plans are being made in case the drive is not going to be possible.
Well, I wonder if trains can actually run on rails when it's -10. I mean, don't the points get frozen and all that kind of stuff?
In some parts of the world. I mean, the rest of Europe is currently having a terrible cold snap. -30 degrees in Poland.
Is that right?
-30 degrees C.
Not good.
In Russia as well, in Moscow.
It's not good.
No.
So Everton go out of the EFL, that's the English Football League Cup.
What?
Against Norwich earlier in the season.
Yes,
at home.
Indeed,
At home. Then we go out to...
Norwich are still in the FA Cup at the moment, aren't they?
Norwich still in the FA Cup, But I was talking about the EFL Cup, actually.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is they're still in the FA Cup as well.
So Everton go out on a Saturday afternoon when Millwall go through, and, of course, we went 1-0 up, and I thought, yes,
And where were you listening to? You couldn't watch it, you told me on Saturday, because it wasn't on actually live,
No,
right?
it wasn't on live. I was in transit, actually.
Were you?
Yeah, between here and the coast, and hoping for...
Is that, you see, because, I know you're quite superstitious about these things. Wouldn't you normally prefer to be in one spot, normally?
Well, you would normally, but, factors take over, there was work to be done, all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And I had to get on with it. So, but I heard 1-0 up, and I thought, I have to say...
You were thinking, here we go.
Well...
Because you were waxing very lyrical about the road to Wembley on Saturday.
I did also
and this
say
is your favourite weekend.
I did also say that having beaten Leicester in a league game at their ground a couple of weeks before...
Yes.
The lightning strike twice theory was something that I was always very wary of.
Yeah.
And I know Leicester are still the league champions, Premier League champions.
Yeah.
So they're also...
They're still in the Champions League.
Still in the Champions League. They're also going to be a difficult team to beat. But, of course, it's very depressing. And I have to say that Mr. Koeman afterwards, well, he outlined some, club policy.
Hasn't he blamed this recruitment guy?
Walsh.
Yeah.
Steve Walsh. Well...
What's he blamed him for?
I don't think he's blamed him. I don't think there's a blame game going on. I think what Mr. Koeman was doing is that, people are looking for answers at Goodison because we're on the threshold of what we hope will be a a brave new world, a golden era. And he was explaining what role was applicable to each person.
Well, it's all very well to keep going on about the transition period and the building blocks and all that, but Mr. Moshiri, as you refer to him, must be beginning to wonder what on earth he's put his money into, mustn't he?
No, Mr. Moshiri is a very, very successful businessman, and anybody who's been successful in business will know that it don't come easy.
Yeah, it don't come easy.
Which was a song title by Ringo Starr, by the way.
It was. I remember it well.
It don't come easy.
Yeah. I'd rather he didn't sing
it don't
stage.
Come easy. He played that sitting at a piano.
It came pretty easy for him.
That's very harsh. That's very harsh.
Yeah, to be fortunate enough to join the world's greatest rock band.
Sitting behind a set of drums all his life and bashing out...
while these two geniuses produced some of the greatest songs ever made.
Of all time, yeah.
Q raking in tens of millions of pounds.
That's right, yeah. That is a bit harsh. But... no, I didn't even know Ringo could play the piano, actually, when I saw him sitting at his piano on, like, this snow hill somewhere in Austria or something. Playing a piano and singing It Don't Come Easy, as you quite rightly said. Sometimes it does. But, no, the point of my story is...
what is the point of your story?
Well,
you seem to be going all over the place. You're trying to justify Ronald Koeman.
No.
It's starting to sound a bit like the way you used to justify Martinez.
No, what I'm saying is that Mr. Moshiri knows that you can't create a successful and big club overnight. You have to...
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a difference between overnight and forever, though, isn't there?
No, well, it's only since the start of this season.
Is it?
It's half a season.
Well, it don't feel like that.
It's half a season.
It feels like it's been going on a lot longer.
Of course it does, because expectations are always high. But,
right. Well, the rebuilding job under Martinez didn't go very well.
There wasn't a rebuilding job under Martinez. Mr. Martinez was an extension
of... demolition job.
No, it wasn't, actually. It was an extension of what we've had to... put up with for the last decade or two because we were underfunded.
Yeah.
The underfunding problem has now been resolved. We now have a new funding stream and we're on a more level playing field.
So they're going to spend some money on the transfer window?
With the TV rights? Well, they're trying to, aren't they? Everybody knows they're trying to take a couple of players from Manchester United. We already signed the young boy Luckland from Charlton.
Memphis Depay is now being looked at by a couple of clubs in Europe.
Well, that's always going to happen. His agent will say, hey, there's competition here. That's the sort of thing that happens in the transfer window. But Schneidler, I think, will want to work with his old boss.
Is he any good, Schneiderlin? I mean, nobody really knows, do they?
Well...
He was for a while, but he sort of disappeared below the radar.
I have to admit I can't answer that question fully because I don't have a huge portfolio of his previous performances. However...
we don't know.
However, I can say that if Mr. Koeman rates him...
He's far too reasonable.
As he does, because he's been his... I've just seen a weather warning from Poland. The cops say people are dying on the streets.
They are dying, yeah. Yeah, 2 guys died over the weekend.
It's
terribly cold. It's minus 30, I told you that.
Minus 30.
Can you imagine how cold that is? Minus 30 degrees. What is that in Fahrenheit, by the way?
What? Minus 30
degrees centigrade.
Eh?
Minus 30 degrees centigrade.
Minus 30 degrees centigrade in Fahrenheit
what would that be? Because freezing in Fahrenheit is 32, remember?
That's 32.
Because I'm trying to equate like some of the coldest weather you and I have been in.
It's about
which
sort
would
of
have been in America.
It's about sort of minus 20, isn't it?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, I would think
some
so.
of the teens, 20, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, something like that.
I don't think I've ever been anywhere that cold.
Can I just remind people, please, to take great care this weekend if this cold spell does come, minus 10, minus 11.
Why?
Well, because below minus 3, that's when birds drop out the sky and could hit you on the head. They die mid-flight.
No, they don't.
They do.
Rubbish.
They do.
That is absolute cobblers.
It is not. They die mid-flight because simply the air...
They don't fly when it's that cold.
They do fly, but they get up to a position where the air is too thin.
Are they flying south or north?
They're flying to warmth, so they'll be flying south.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid their lungs can't cope, and their lungs implode on them, and they simply come out the air. The point is, if they're flying high enough, by the time they hit you on the head, they could be frozen anyway.
Yeah.
And it's no fun. It's no fun.
You're going to be pretty unlucky to be hit on the head by a bird falling out of the sky. When you consider the size of the sky,
I agree.
The size of the Earth.
I agree. I totally agree. But
officially,
of course,
minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be.
That's what I said.
You said minus 20, yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I got it absolutely right.
Well, you didn't get it absolutely right.
God, that's incredible. You must have a brain like a computer.
You must.
No, you're absolutely right. You'd be unlucky if a frozen bird hit you on the head.
You'd be really, really unlucky.
Except that if you're in an urban situation.
It's like being struck by lightning.
If you're in an urban situation, a town or something like that, you know, the birds try and nestle there for warmth in the higher buildings. And when they take off, like
the higher buildings?
The higher buildings, yeah.
How do they nestle in higher buildings for warmth?
They nestle under the eaves of the building so that the heat inside the building, that's where it comes out. That's where the ventilation shafts are,
I see.
And that's what they do. They're quite smart.
I'm trying to think of places in London with ease.
Smarter than the average bear.
Bird.
The birds, yeah. And so what I'm saying is... Hey?
You see the time?
Yeah, you don't worry about the time. What I'm saying is, cold weather warnings this weekend will be something that you should be very, very aware of.
Well, they also say that you have to worry about people who might be elderly, who might be living in places where they can't afford to turn up the heat.
Of course.
Because in that kind of cold... any kind of tiny little break in the window, any kind of little space that cold air can come in, can make it very, very, very cold indeed.
And
I was busy telling my kids tonight, actually, about how lucky they were, because one of my kids was saying it was too cold in the house.
Because you've got a fire in the house?
No, well, he went and turned up the thermostat.
Right.
And I started to get really hot. And I'm like, what have you... He just went and turned it up.
Oh, I see.
Because he didn't approve of the fact that his mother keeps it quite cool.
Well, hang on.
I said, when I lived in a house in London, when I was your age, we didn't have any heating.
Didn't need heating, no.
At all.
And a bowl of gruel a day.
Well, I felt like that guy from Monty Python.
That's
anyway,
right, yeah.
We've got more to talk about. You've been far too reasonable about Everton, so we may have to move on and talk about Liverpool, because Liverpool have been criticised as well, because Jurgen Klopp got it wrong against Plymouth Argyle.
Yeah.
But we should talk more about that. This is Talk Sport.
The Pilgrims.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe it's not too late.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Got quite a few tweets coming in already. Here's one from BMW. He says, there's more chance of being hit by a frozen bird than Everton being successul. Which is a bit harsh, I would say.
I'm not going to rise to those sort of things.
He also says the road to Wembley, fat chance Everton are on the road to nowhere.
I'm on the road.
That's Talking Heads song.
Talking Heads, that was. And by the way, I'm not endorsing Everton on the road to nowhere. Everton are on the road to a glittering future.
Yeah, now how
it's just
about
going to
this?
take a bit longer than we thought.
How about this from Stuart? My friend in Bucharest says if she doesn't have enough to eat in the house, she would just die instead. There's not going out in minus 20 degrees.
Who's this? In Bucharest?
Bucharest, yeah.
That's in Romania.
It is in Romania.
I've been there.
It's the capital of Romania.
I've been there.
Didn't you have a couple of other interesting encounters?
I certainly did, and I went round Ceausescu's.
Was that where the woman on the bike was?
No, that was in...
that was Russia, was it?
No, that was in Latvia, in Riga.
Riga.
No, I went round Ceausescu's palace, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it took a day to get round it.
Is that still there? They didn't knock it down, did they?
No, they haven't knocked it. They couldn't knock it down.
So
it's
what
too
do they
big.
use it for now, then?
I've no idea. It's the biggest office block in the world used to be the Pentagon. It's now Ceausescu's palace.
It's not bigger than the Pentagon,
The Pentagon's got 9 miles of corridors. Yeah. Ceausescu's palace is apparently bigger.
Funnily enough, I was watching that movie No Way Out the other night, which is all based around the Pentagon. And, and this guy's being chased around the Pentagon, and they can never catch him
because it's so big. It's got its own railway underneath, hasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It has, yeah.
And buses and all the rest of it.
I tell you, I saw a great film the other night, The End Of. Don't know why.
The End Of?
Yeah, I don't know why I was watching it, but it was The 39 Steps.
Which one?
The most modern version.
Oh, right.
I
like the old one.
Where she gets shot and falls into the lock at the end. The heroine woman, Virginia.
Who's in it? The new one.
I tell you who it is. You know the big, tall, blonde-haired actor guy who was in, like...
Dolph Lundgren.
No. This guy is very English, and he was in that remake of Ripper or The Ripper or something.
The Ripper? Ripper Street?
No, not Ripper Street. It was a dark sort of
Robert Downey Jr.
No, not Robert Downey Jr. It was a dark sort of police thing, right?
Right.
About a gang who tried to impersonate the Krays in the East End.
Really?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
And this guy was very good. But anyway, he was the central character, the guy who was being chased by the Germans and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a terrific love story, really, because at the end, what happened was they're all near a lock in Scotland.
Yes.
Because the German submarine comes up to take their spy home, okay?
Well, in a lock?
A lock in Scotland.
What was he doing in a canal? What was the submarine doing in a canal?
Well, no, this lock apparently had...
a lock?
A lock.
A lock?
Yeah.
Not a lock. I thought you meant a lock, like a canal lock.
No, it's in like a big pond in
lock.
Scotland called a lock.
Yeah, but it's a lock. You can say it with a bit of a guttural sound.
Loch.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was in a lock, like Loch Ness.
I thought you meant a lock, like the Avon, the Kennet and Avon Canal locks,
like Loch Lomond. And so the German submarine arrives, right?
Yeah.
But it can only stay on the surface for 3 minutes.
Why?
Well, because the loch is not got enough water to keep it going for very long. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And
Loch Fyne. That's where
could have been Loch Fyne.
That's where they have the nuclear subs, isn't it?
Could be. So anyway, the German spy's rowing out to the conning tower of the German sub.
Rowing?
Yeah, and all of a sudden the English appear on the horizon.
Yeah.
There's a load of German spies around, everybody shooting each other, and then Victoria, who is the woman who this guy's fallen in love with,
right?
And she's also works for the British Secret Service, but he didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they get shot by a German spy who's come back from the dead. You know what I mean?
Is she killed?
Well, you see, this is the brilliant thing. She then disappears into the loch, right? And he then, after dealing with the German spy, then dives in after her, can't find her. So you've got this incredible...
It's not Anthony Andrews, is it?
No, it wasn't Anthony Andrews, no.
I'm trying to think of other blonde English actors.
No, I can't remember his name.
Tom Hiddleston.
No, but it looked like Tom Hiddleston. It wasn't Tom Hiddleston, but it looked like him. So anyway, so he gets out the loch.
Yeah. And
then the next scene you see is down in England, because this happened all just before the Second World War, but war has now been declared, okay?
Right.
They were trying to preempt an invasion of Britain. You see what I mean?
I remember the original 39 Steps.
Yeah.
I remember watching it when I was quite young and being quite frightened by the guy with the half a finger.
Yes.
You know, the guy with the half a pinky.
And Kenneth Moore getting off the train on the
Tay Bridge.
On the Tay Bridge, that's right, yeah. But anyway...
Did you ever see that movie about the Tay Bridge disaster?
Oh, I bet that was terrible.
It was awful, yeah.
79 people died.
Yeah, the train just went right plunging into the
Shocking.
creek.
Somebody didn't get it right when they built it.
No.
Didn't put enough cement in the bricks, apparently. But anyway, so anyway, he dives in, can't find her. Now, the next scene you see is this guy's then an army officer because he's joined up because war has officially been declared.
Is this after the girl's shot?
After the girl's shot.
I thought that was at the end.
This is right at the end of the film.
Okay.
Right at the end of the film.
Right.
And he's down at Waterloo Station in London. And another very senior army officer comes up to him and says, "She's over there." And he looks up and says, "What?" "Victoria just wanted to say goodbye."
Oh, yeah.
And he looks up and he says, "But no, it's a very deep lock. Don't worry. And you can't speak to her now. That'll be for the end of the war." And then she disappears again.
Okay.
So I'm not
she survived?
Well, I'm not sure whether she was a ghost and it was in his imagination.
A ghost?
Yeah, or whether she was such a high-ranking Secret Service officer that when they rescued her from the loch, they had to pretend she was dead, so the Germans thought
I'm completely confused
she
now.
was dead. Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember any of that in the old version of
Well,
39
this was a
Steps.
great version. I tell you, it was a great version, and I felt quite touched by the romance of it all. You know what I mean?
Do you know, my sister once told me a complete and utter falsehood.
Oh,
that
yeah.
the 39 Steps was actually based on the steps at Waverley Station in Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
Which they're not. Because she said there's 39 steps. When I went to live in Edinburgh,
yes,
because she used to live in Edinburgh, right?
Yes.
I walked up the Waverley Steps, and there's not 39 of them.
How many are there?
Well, there's a lot more than 39.
So, what was it based on?
It was a code, wasn't it? It was the 39 Steps wasn't based on anything.
It was.
It was a code.
No,
it was a secret code.
It was a tower, wasn't it? They went into a tower and
no,
there were 39
but
steps in the tower.
I don't know if it was any particular
It
number
was
of
where
steps.
there was a silent letterbox at the
No,
top.
because it was, what are the 39 steps?
And but very coincidentally, there were 39 steps up to the old royal box at the old Wembley Stadium.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe it was about that then.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was
39 steps.
Yeah. Very
Did a lot
coincidentally.
of people know that? Did people comment on it?
Well, not everybody's got as much knowledge as me.
No,
but
thankfully
there were 39 steps up to the royal box where Bobby Moore picked up the World Cup.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the 39 steps in the original John Buchan novel were the 39 steps in a tower, you know, like a little medieval tower or something.
I'm sure somebody will tell us.
With a silent letterbox at the top, i.e. where they dropped the secret information, you know.
Somebody says, is it Rupert Perry Jones?
Rupert Perry Jones it is. Thank you very much indeed.
Said, I think it's Paul Bethany.
No, it's Rupert Perry Jones.
Really?
Yeah, he got a double R on surname.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's very, very good, honestly. Have a look at him on your information device. You'll see his face.
Here's one from Weekend who says, bit harsh on Ringo Starr. Have you not heard his song La-Di-Da? I haven't actually, no. The professor says, how about this?
Yeah, go on.
The professor from 39 Steps says, I went out with John Buchan's great niece, Caroline Buchan, in the early 80s.
Wow.
We were together for 3 years.
Wow, that's incredible. What incredible...
Did she fall into a lock?
I'll tell you what, you won't believe this. My old fella bought... honestly. He bought Ringo Starr's first solo record.
Why?
It was because it was a wartime song. It was... Peaches of cream.
Oh,
what
you
do
come
I
on like a
dream?
dream, yeah.
You come on like a dream.
Lips like silvery
Lips
wine.
like
or something.
strawberry wine.
Yeah.
She's 16.
You're 16. Yeah, I always thought that was slightly
She's
worrying,
beautiful.
that song.
Well, do you know what?
Slightly worrying.
Not only is that worrying, that celebrating a lady's 16, but the other one, which I think is incredibly worrying...
it's the age of consent, technically.
Yeah, but the other one, which I think is incredibly worrying, is that, that Maurice du Chevalier, whatever his name is.
Maurice Chevalier.
Maurice Chevalier, the French singer.
Yeah.
And I always thought this was a perverted song, really. I thought it was a bit of a perv, you know.
Which one?
Thank heavens for little girls.
Well, I think you may have been putting too much into that.
Because little girls get bigger every day.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, there's this lecherous old French guy, right, who's looking at all these little girls and thinking, ooh, they get bigger every day.
I don't think he meant it like that.
Well, I'm telling you, that's the way I...
what about your tweet over the weekend about Peter Salstead, which you got the lyrics wrong? Somebody asked me to correct them. Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Where do you go to, my lovely, when you're alone in your bed?
Yeah, you didn't say that.
What are the dreams that surround you?
Yeah.
I want to get into your head. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, but you didn't say anything about
Remember the back streets of Naples.
No, we can't have that.
When you were a child in rags.
Never mind that. Ross says this, don't worry about cold weather warning. Mike Parry should come with his own warning. Hashtag fat man warning.
Oh, that's very nice,
and Tony says, does Mike Parry understand the concept of terminal velocity? Ray the frozen birds. Unless they are all carrying anvils, I think we're going to be okay.
Well, all I'm doing is trying to put out the warning. I see that's part of my job. Part of my job is to protect my flock. My flock does not just consist of the ducks, which of course are going to have a very hard time this weekekend in minus temperatures.
You'll have to work extra hard to get food to them, won't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, you have to take the old stick and break the ice so they've got water to float around.
The baseball bat that you have.
Oh, the baseball bat, that's right. And then you've got to...
W says, never mind the 39 steps, Mike Parry should take the 12 steps.
12 steps. That's very harsh. That is very harsh.
I must admit, I'm surprised you weren't driven into a sort of a somnolent sort of pit of despair with drink over the weekend after what happened to Everton.
Well, I think I may be.
People were very worried. I mean, you were putting out tweets talking about staring into the abyss.
Yes.
And, you know, misery has never been more miserable.
Well,
and all that kind of thing. You get quite philosophical.
I couldn't define misery. How do you define misery when you're in that sort of state? It was terrible. And I think I may still be in some sort of hysterical form of shock because, you know, I'm sort of looking at it now and trying to convince myself that the FA Cup doesn't matter. But it does matter.
Well, it does.
It's highly important to me.
Well, it matters now because there's nothing else, right? There's basically nothing else to look forward to.
It's true.
Stuart says this, they wanted to blow up the Ceausescu place but couldn't afford the dynamite, so my guide said.
Well,
love Bucharest,
it's not that they
you.
couldn't afford the dynamite, it's just that, to be honest, to take that building down would be a 10-year project.
Well, somebody sent a picture in of it saying this is your new gaff in Sutton, Porky.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it is huge, isn't it?
Oh, it's massive. What they're hoping is that as the economy improves, then some billionaire will come along.
Anytime soon, is it?
Well, yeah, who knows? You know,
time,
some billionaire will come along and literally turn it into, you know, one of Europe's great hotels.
Yes.
In the middle of Bucharest.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's probably too big to be a hotel, to be honest. You'd never be able to keep it running smoothly.
Yeah, yeah.
And how about this from BMW? It says, these frozen birds could do some damage when falling. He showed us a picture of a frozen turkey.
Well, there you go. There you go. They're certainly good.
Well, if it fell on you, but as I said, you'd have to be very, very unlucky to be hit by that. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking to Tim Vickery a bit later on.
Indeed.
Because Lionel Messi decided in his wisdom not to go along to the pageant, which was declaring Ronaldo the greatest footballer of all time.
I don't blame him, really.
It's the sort of thing you would do. I knew you'd like that from him.
Well, no, but I don't blame him. Why should he sit there and watch his greatest rival
Why should he not congratulate him?
Well, because the time for congratulation is not at sort of award ceremonies like that. I'm sorry. No.
The 70s version of 39 Steps was on today with Robert Powell. And the 39 Steps are the steps to Big Ben, but that wasn't the one you saw. So there's a third one then.
There's a third one, yeah.
There must be.
But Kenneth Moore, Robert Powell, and Rupert Perry Jones.
Yes.
I like the Rupert Perry Jones one.
How about this one from William? The pioneer cabin tree, over 2,000 years old, Dave was telling us about this earlier, still alive, felled by the storm Tequila.
I know.
In California.
And then
that's the one that they dug a tunnel through so they could drive through it.
And I think you'll find there's plenty of comment that if they hadn't driven a tunnel through the tree, the poor tree would still be alive now, weakened so badly in the base, obviously, because part of it's gone missing.
Yeah, part of it has indeed gone missing. This is Talk Sport. We've got loads more coming up.
Indeed.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mites. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. Lots of people sending us loads of information on the 39 Steps. No seemingly obvious description of what the 39 Steps were meant to be,
right?
To be honest. But I dare say there will be lots and lots of theories about that.
Yes.
N17 says, forget 39 Steps. I can't stop watching Porky doing the cinnamon challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And shocking amount of singing already from Porky, says Paul.
I don't think so. I think you'll find that adds a bit of... what should I say? Fruitfulness to the show.
See, David says the 39 steps were the steps from a house down to the sea where the spies landed.
Oh, was it?
Which might be. I've not heard that one either.
I've not heard that one either. No,
Andy says a 70s version of 39 Steps was on with. I saw that one. Sorry, Rupert Penry Jones with the 2008 version of the 39 Steps.
That's right, which I thought was the best one yet.
Well, I haven't seen all of them, but
hang on. It says Robert Donat was the first Richard Hannay in the 30s.
Robert Donat.
Donat. D-O-N-A-T.
Robert Donat.
Donat, yeah.
Wasn't it Donat?
So that means there was a Richard Hannay Donat. There was a Richard Hannay Kenneth Moore, there was a Richard Hannay Robert Powell, and Richard Hannay Rupert Penry Jones.
There was a.
So there's been 4.
One of them was a Hitchcock film as well.
Oh, apparently. Which one was that?
I think that's the one I saw.
That would be. Well, that must have been the first one.
Yeah.
The first or second. It must have been the first.
Not the Kenneth Moore one.
No, it must have been the first one. Must have been Robert Donat.
That's the one that I like.
Yes.
Yeah, Robert Donat. Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
It sounds like Porky's going to spit, says John. I think he's talking about your pronunciation of Loch.
Loch, yeah. It says here, Robert Donat, first 39 steps, the original and best Porky. I'm 51, and no, he was before Kenneth Moore. Your knowledge not as good as you think it is, Vic in Dagenham. No, hang on, Vic. I've never seen that donut one.
Donut.
The one I remember.
Donut.
In the Kenneth Moore, the 39 steps I saw, right?
Yeah.
The bit I always remember is how he got out of the flat in London by impersonating the Whistling Milkman. Do you remember?
The Whistling Milkman. Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
You know, he was trapped in this flat with this woman that. Because in the Robert Moore one, the woman he was trapped with was a.
That was quite a flirty sort of film, wasn't it?
But she was like just an innocent victim that had bumped into him on the way. In the one that I saw the other night with Rupert Penry Jones.
Didn't he meet her on the train?
Met her on the train.
Yeah.
But when I saw the Rupert Penry Jones one the other night, she turns out to be a very senior Secret Service agent who was in fact tracking him. Because the Germans were tracking him as well.
Made it more complicated.
According
to this, it was based on the book 39 Steps by John Buchan, which we know, right? His son said the 39 Steps refers to the steps of a private nursing home where John Buchan was convalescing.
Oh.
I mean, so it's obviously one of these things that there's.
Do you know what? That doesn't make sense because he wrote the book a long time before he went doolally, didn't he?
So... Well, yeah, but he might have been convalescing from something else.
Oh, he might have been, but you didn't.
You don't just go into a home because you're convalescing from being doolally.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, you don't usually convalesce in a home because you've got like appendicitis or something, do you? You go to hospital
some days. I mean, there used to be. I mean, I remember talking to. My kid's grandmother in America, who said that there was a time in New York City where you used to be sent to sanitariums because the air quality was so bad.
Do you mean like Sue Ellen?
Yeah, I'm not talking about dried out clinics. I'm talking about Sue Ellen. But no, because the air was so bad in the city.
Oh, I see.
People used to get all sorts of terrible breathing difficulties,
really?
Right? And sometimes kids and even young people would be sent to these sanitariums that were sort of up the Hudson so that you could breathe clear air.
Yeah, well,
that's the sort of thing that used to happen.
We want to be breathing clean air, that's for absolutely sure.
Neil says this, hi guys, Porky's off his head on Red Bull.
What?
We have crows flying around at minus 30, and that's from Neil in Saskatchewan, where it's minus 35.
I'm not off my head at all. I tell you what, I came across a shocking bit of history, reading my historical journals the other night. Do you know that today is the anniversary of the first time that income tax was introduced into this country?
Really?
Something which I've been opposed to ever since.
What? So why are you opposed to income tax?
In 1799...
You can't be opposed to income tax.
In 1799, income tax was introduced by William Pitt the Younger to raise funds for the Napoleonic Wars.
Yes.
And
well, it was always about war, wasn't it? Back then?
Yeah.
Because not that many people were presumably able to be taxed.
No, it was.
You couldn't tax that many people.
Well,
back
this
then.
is exactly why I think it was such an unfair tax.
Right.
I mean, it was supposed to be temporary.
Well, you can't tax people who are crawling around in a sort of pit of their own vomit, can you?
Well, they weren't doing that. They were just all peasants and they didn't have any money.
Well, that's what I mean. You can't tax them.
Yeah, but isn't it very unfair that the burden of taxation for the Napoleonic Wars had to be borne by the landowners and the mill workers?
Well, they were the ones that were probably profiting from it.
The landowners and the mill owners and all those people.
Yeah, but they were probably profiting from it.
Well, they were making money because they were entrepreneurs. They were better than the rest.
Well, maybe they were making money because they were making stuff for the war as well.
Yeah, I suppose some of them were in a way. But, I mean, the problem is once you start charging people income tax, you never, ever stop charging them income tax. That's what gets
true.
me.
But at least income tax is not as high in this country. But it's not out of control in this country in the same way that it is in some other countries.
Well, I still think
it's
a lot
higher in other countries.
Yeah, it's still...
Well, you don't pay that much income tax, do you?
Yeah, huge amounts.
I mean, you pay lots of other taxes.
Yeah, we pay all sorts of taxes. You pay company tax and personal income tax and maximum amount of tax on what they call unearned unearned income.
The worst tax
How can
for me-
income be unearned? How can it be unearned?
Well, because you can inherit it for a start.
No, it's not inherited. This is if you have
You could inherit a business from your father,
yes.
right?
In my case, it's not.
Which might be a
inherited.
land business, say, for example.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about, if you work all your life and then you go and buy a property,
Yeah.
right, and then you rent that property out
Right.
as an investment, and then
To an Egyptian doctor.
or whatever, and then you obviously get the news. He takes your account and he says, "Well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to pay 50% on this." And I
Yeah.
say, "Why?"
Yeah.
And he says, "It's unearned income." Well, hang on, it's not unearned income.
Well, you haven't worked to get it, have you?
Well, hang on, I did work to pay the £250,000 for the flat
Yeah.
that from where the
Sure,
income comes.
but then you get the
so
benefit.
that's not unearned income,
but
is
you
it?
get but you get the benefit of having that particular investment property.
But I've worked for it all my life.
Yeah, but that's fine. But
You
the
know,
point
instead
is-
of going around and
Well, you
wasting
have- yeah,
my
but-
money
yeah,
on, wine, women and song,
What are you
buying
suggesting?
speedboats and all that kind of stuff,
What?
I actually invested properly in a future.
Yeah, but you
And
did,
then-
not only that, you invested about 25 of them.
Listen, that's irrelevant. What I'm saying is, how can you possibly tag that as
Well, how much
unearned
tax would you
income?
like to pay on it? None.
About 20%.
20.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you get a better accountant?
In fact, well, because I pay every penny that I'm owed to the state because that's what you have to do. You can't do anything
Well, there
else.
are certainly ways around paying tax.
Well, I'm not
which you
interested
are
in tax
certainly-
avoidance
which
or anything like
it's not
that.
tax avoidance is totally legal. It's just become morally
no.
unacceptable,
No,
right?
yeah, I know, but
Because you have to pay your fair share, as they say.
I want to pay my fair share, but I just wish that the politicians who take so much money off me would spend it more responsibly.
Yeah, well, they can't. They
Instead
don't
of
know how to
wasting
do
it.
that. They don't know how to do that. By the way, have you seen what's going on in Northern Ireland? It's all
Well,
kicked off over there.
oh, it's
Martin
incredible.
McGuinness has resigned as Deputy First Minister.
Because he gave away too many boilers, is that right?
Apparently, yeah. Well, apparently
Yeah.
they've got this very complicated thing going on.
Yes.
Which is a bit like if you remember when they used to give away money to farmers in order not to grow anything.
In Europe, they
In Europe.
keep the field fallow and
Yeah.
we'll pay you thousands. Yeah.
And so it was actually cheaper for them, or made more sense for them
Yeah.
to not grow anything at all.
Exactly, yeah.
And they were handed money, right?
Yeah.
Something similar has happened there, where this woman who's the First Minister, Arlene Foster, is from the DUP party, right?
Yeah.
The
Democratic
Unionists.
Unionist Party.
Exactly. She came up with some scheme to basically make people use more sort of ergonomically, environmentally friendly boilers.
Yes.
And so in order to encourage them, they said they'd pay them money to take them on.
Right.
But of course, all the people who then applied for these grants
Yeah.
actually were scam artists.
Yes.
And they've had to
It
pay out
does
something
surprise
like 450 million quid,
Yeah.
which has bankrupted their economy.
For boilers that don't
For
exist.
boilers that don't exist. One particular farmer apparently was going to get £1 million
Yeah.
for heating a shed.
Yeah, right,
Which
for
he
his
didn't-
cows or something.
Yeah, which of course he didn't need to heat.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They always go wrong. I remember...
So apparently the government is going to fall over there because the Sinn Féin are saying, no, sorry, we're not going to put anybody up to do his job.
That's right,
So
yeah.
there is now no coalition government.
So, you see, now that worries me because I spend a lot of time in Northern Ireland and what it does need, Northern Ireland, is stability
Yes,
at all times.
yes.
Because when you create vacuums in Northern Ireland in the political process,
Yeah.
those vacuums get filled with sometimes not very nice people.
Yeah.
So
And
I
here's
hope,
an
I hope
interesting
that
thing.
rights itself.
And here's an interesting thing, which you can imagine the Scots getting very worked up about. Northern Ireland Secretary James Brokenshire, who we used to know, used to talk to him quite a lot on this show.
Oh,
he says
Brokenshire.
that unless Sinn Féin nominates a replacement in the next 7 days, he will have no choice but to call an election. So he calls the election from London,
Yeah?
which won't please them either. So it's very quite right for you to say we should keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think we should keep an eye on it, definitely. Don't
But I'm
worry about
surprised you
that.
didn't manage to sort of somehow get yourself involved in this free boiler scheme
Well,
for all your properties.
I don't actually own any property in Northern Ireland, so
Don't you?
unless I'd sort of gone over there and said, "Oh, could you give me one? I'll take it home with me."
If you'd known
Brought it home on the ferry.
Well, if you'd known they were going to have this kind of scheme, you would have done it.
I don't
You'd have
think
bought yourself
so.
a shed over there and made yourself another million.
I think not. Talking about schemes that sort of went wrong, by the way, I mean, you know, there's been a terrible misunderstanding about our relationship with Hull. You know, we like the people of Hull and we
We've
like Hull
never
as a
said
city.
we have never said anything about Hull. I've certainly never said. I mean, you
Yeah.
did say,
Yes.
and it has been noted,
Yes.
and it has upset some people that there was more culture in the jungle in Calais.
But that was a
Well,
was a jest.
but nobody has a sense of humour about this stuff,
It was
right?
a jest.
Yeah,
But
but
I've-
we now appear to be at war with another plank, like
Yeah.
Jay Rayner-like,
Yeah.
who's the MP for Hull, called Carl. What's his name? Carl Turner.
Carl Turner,
Page Turner.
MP
he keeps
for Hull
blocking.
East.
He's blocking all of our followers.
But did you see what happened in Hull over the weekend?
What?
They took a big blade in.
Oh, what, one of these turbine blades?
Yeah, well, it's City of Culture, so they moved a
Yeah, I'm not sure what the relationship is between the blade and culture.
a 246-foot wind turbine blade.
Yeah.
manoeuvred through narrow streets in the early morning before being mounted in Queen Victoria's Square. Seriously. This is supposed to represent the city of culture.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
A blinking blade.
Have you ever seen that movie by Woody Allen, Everything You Want to Know About Sex We're Afraid to Ask?
No.
There's one section of it, and you'll forgive me because it is quite late at night, where there's a giant breast that sort of moves through this field.
Oh, I see.
It reminded me of that. Because the BBC in the north apparently covered this live. And it was moving literally at a snail's pace.
Oh, it was...
And they had somebody doing live commentary of this giant sort of,
blade.
Phallus moving through the town.
It's taller than Nelson's column. They put it up right now in the middle of the hole. It's taller than Nelson's column. As you quite rightly say, they had to move it on what you can only call as low-loader, heavy-duty machines.
It's unbelievable.
And it moved at about 1 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And that was live TV.
Can you imagine having to commentate on that?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to say?
And now the blade has moved to the first door of the fire station, and in half an hour's time, it'll be passing the second door.
It's still looking good. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
We are the Two Mics, and that music can only signify one thing. It is, of course, that we're about to speak to Mr. Tim Vickery in Brazil. There's plenty to talk to him about as well, and I'm sure he's not facing too much of a cold snap, but we shall find out. Tim, very good morning to you.
35 degrees and climbing.
Wow.
In order to minimise the noise, I've just closed all the windows and switched off my fan heater.
Wow.
So there's a lot of sweating going on this side of the Atlantic.
Right. Well, I mean, it's hard, when it's very cold, it's always hard to imagine quite what it's like to be hot. So you put me in a complete quandary here. But it's not too bad, but we are expecting a cold snap coming up. But nothing colder, I would say, than the atmosphere in presumably Lionel Messi's house when he decided not to go and join the celebrations with Ronaldo in the FIFA World Footballer Best Football Awards in Zurich.
Well, Barcelona as a whole didn't turn up, did they?
No.
I don't know what's gone on there, but to be honest, I've always liked Messi's attitude towards this this particular award. Personally, I think people attach far too much importance to it. I know it's important to Cristiano Ronaldo, and it's been something which has motivated him to reach the incredible heights that he has reached. But Messi always seems to see it as not an objective in itself, merely a consequence for job well done in a collective context, which I think is a far healthier attitude towards the thing than that of Cristiano Ronaldo. And all right, him and his teammates didn't turn up, but I think the world is still spinning more or less on its axis as before.
Well, I think it is, but I mean, it is weird, isn't it? Because we found out, I think, not that long ago that Ronaldo used to refer to him as a four-letter word, Messi, and I quite like it that that's how they see each other.
Yeah, well, it's almost like a kind of boxing rivalry, isn't it? I remember Sugar Ray Leonard talking about Tommy Hearns back in the day and saying, we can't like each other. We're fighting for the same space, so we can't. So it's just part of the rivalry that spurs. As I say, for Messi, I don't think it's ever been particularly important, but Cristiano Ronaldo, who perhaps wasn't born with the same natural talent, and that's what people at Sporting Lisbon said. They always said that Quaresma was more talented than Cristiano Ronaldo. So, Cristiano Ronaldo is the product of very hard work, which means mental strength as well. And if that's what it takes to for him to be as good as he is, then I suppose we have to accept that.
Yeah, no, absolutely right.
Do you know what, Tim? Sorry to interrupt there, but Wayne Rooney's now, cracking more records. He's got the same scoring rate now as Bobby Charlton. He's already England's top scorer. And some in this country say that Rooney's never received the adulation, the praise he should, because he is a very English working class boy. And therefore, in this country, we don't regard him with the sort of the awe and the glamour and the style and the panache of Ronaldo or even Lionel Messi.
Yeah, and he is Shrek as well, isn't he? He's difficult to do that.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
that kind of. I know you have an Everton allegiance to him. You saw him on the way up, and all the rest of it. But I'm inclined to agree with that. And I will never forget the goal that he scored here in the Maracanã. When the Maracanã was reopened a year before the World Cup, and he didn't half plant one in, and it was absolute quality, and it was absolute magic. And those records that he's got.
Oh yeah, incredible!
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic things, but maybe there's two things missing. Maybe he hasn't done it as Messi and Ronaldo have done in big Champions League finals. And obviously the record with the English national team in tournaments. So if he is undervalued compared to the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, I think those reasons are probably more important than his physical appearance.
Maybe he's one of those guys that should have gone to play in Spain.
Maybe, sure, but I'm not sure he'd have been comfortable there. But many United fans you speak to now say, what, the man we remember, the man with style, the man who's different, the man who made it, Eric Cantona.
Yeah.
Because, Cantona had something else about him, if you've heard of me.
Oh, he did. Well, I mean, we were watching because Porky rather unwisely sort of pricked the wrath of Vinnie Jones last week and suggested that he was one of the worst players to ever play at the top flight football in this country. But we watched an old tackle by Vinnie Jones on Eric Cantona, and he literally shoved him right up in the air. I mean, sort of shoulder height took him out.
Yeah, he did.
And Cantona just got up, dusted himself down, and just walked off.
Yeah.
Didn't care. Didn't even get wound up by it.
Yeah.
I can inform you, gentlemen, that I once played cricket against Vinnie Jones. Not long before he made it. He was still with Wealdstone Town at the time.
Oh, right.
And not only did he drop me off his own bowling with one of the easiest catches you've ever seen, he dropped me. He was also the life and soul of the party behind the bar afterwards. So we come from more or less the same place, and we're more or less the same age. So I've always been inclined to forgive him anything.
Yeah, good man.
Now, one
done.
of the things that Porky's been railing against is this expansion of the World Club. We don't like that idea, do you?
Utterly ridiculous.
What's going on with that?
Well, we shall find out. I mean, there are two things pushing this. One is politics, the other is money. Now, remember Infantino from UEFA? It's the first time UEFA have had a man in power there since 1974, when it was Stanley Rouse of England, who managed to alienate just about everyone outside Europe because his FIFA, if you were from Africa or Asia, it was almost impossible to qualify for the World Cup. So Infantino started off having to break down that suspicion that it's not going to be Europe for the Europeans. How do you do that? Offer Africa and Asia more places. Africa and Asia together have nearly half FIFA membership, but as it stands, they have less than a third of the place in the World Cup. So politically, it plays well to them. Financially, there are powerful arguments in favour of expanding because more countries, more money, and the World Cup is by far FIFA's overwhelming source of revenue. So powerful arguments in favour. But I'm in the same camp as you, gentlemen. I'm against because I think the arguments against are more persuasive.
I'm actually not against it. I think it's quite a good idea.
No, I think it's a rubbish idea, Tim. And the problem is that when you need that many clubs in, even the qualifying stages are pathetically weak. Because, if you've got to get 2 teams out of a group of 8 and you've got to have 48 teams there altogether, then you've got, 24 playing groups for which you need teams as weak as Samoa or New Zealand or something like that. It's ridiculous, the whole thing.
I can think of 4 arguments against. One is that the quality of the tournament will undoubtedly suffer.
Yeah.
Another is that it kills qualification in Europe. Kills qualification in South America as well. It just makes qualification absolutely pointless, which probably isn't in the long-term good of international football. Another one is hosting.
Yeah.
Now, because it means more games. So, are more countries going to have to build all these stadiums?
Well, they're going to have
Brazil
to share
did?
them, aren't they? They're going to have to share them between 2 or 3 different countries.
Sharing, I think, is complicated. I don't like the idea of sharing.
I don't.
Because I think it dilutes that thing of everyone coming together.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to Italy in 90, it was Italia 90. When we went to Germany in 2006, it was Alemannia 2006, and that's what it should be. It should be, it should be a tournament presented to one country for its own culture.
And then everyone coming together in that one country. We ain't all on FIFA expense accounts, so we can fly here, fly to USA and then fly to Mexico and fly to Canada. Yeah. These are massive, massive journeys, and for me, that dilutes the tournament. And the other reason against is that the thing is just so unwieldy. Imagine, and one of the suggestions there is 16 groups. Imagine trying to keep track of 16 groups.
Ridiculous.
There is a reason my musical friends, that the musical stave has 5 lines because there is only so much information that the human eye can process. Now, you're stretching it with 8 groups, but I think, with the global success of football, I can't, I don't think the World Cup should be reduced in size, but you're stretching it. It's hard to follow an 8-group, 32-team World Cup. Imagine 16 groups and 48. It's just too much to take in.
And talking of expense accounts, did you see that Martin Ziegler put out a tweet with a picture of some of the wines that were on sale in this sort of FIFA Grand banquet that was going on?
Yeah.
And it was Grand Cru this and Grand Cru that. Somebody said to me, which one of these would you choose? I was too rich for my blood. I mean, there were thousands, weren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm happy with the plonk from around the corner shop, quite frankly. It would all be wasted on me.
Yeah, you and Paul get on well with that. Now, what about Robert Firmino? Because there's a big piece on the back of the Mirror this morning, talking about whether or not he's going to be available to play for Liverpool, whether he's going to be sold on. We've also got Coutinho, who's apparently being chased by Barcelona. Apparently 60 million quid they're ready to bid for him. What are you hearing over there?
Well, it might be hard for Liverpool to hold on to all of these players, although I don't think they want either of them to leave. Firmino might want to go to a place where there's less danger of his house being burgled.
Well, yeah, I imagine. I mean, that was something that was a factor for Tevez, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, well, and Di Maria as well. It happened to Di Maria.
That's right, it did.
In Manchester. You weigh up, and if you're Firmino and someone like Barcelona might be interested in you. You weigh it up, don't you? Because on the one hand, there's the glamour and the glory of Barcelona. On the other, is he going to be able to be as important as he now is with Liverpool? What do you do? I don't know. If I was him, I would stay put.
Yeah. And what do you make of the Alexis Sanchez stuff? Because what we hear is that, his people want to hang on till the end of the season to see whether, one, Wenger's going to hang around, and two, whether, he is going to have an opportunity to go elsewhere, whether Arsenal are going to come up with the same money that Pogba gets at Manchester United. It's all a bit sort of nerve-wracking for Arsenal fans.
Yeah, it's probably the last big deal of his career, really, really big deal. What is he now? He's 28 now. So, this next deal will take him, to the 30 mark and then into physical decline. So I'd imagine that he wants to get this one absolutely right.
I think there'll be another one after this,
it'll be big, but it won't be as big. Once someone like him gets to 31, he'll be on the downward slope, I think.
They only go for a couple of years now, 2-year deals are sort of the norm, aren't they, with these sort of
if he went to someone like PSG.
Super agents, all that kind of, or China or something like that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But it is his peak years,
yes.
and he's won stuff now with Chile.
Yes.
So he's achieved that. So now he wants to, I think he wants 2 things. Because he's won stuff with Barcelona, but he wasn't important with Barcelona, and that was his frustration. So I think he'd like to win stuff and be important. Can he do that with Arsenal? That's the question I think that Arsenal have to assure him before the end of the season that they're going to be strong enough in order to be serious challenges for the big silverware, and then he gets everything that he wants.
Absolutely right. Well, listen, Tim, I think we're out of time, but thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you. Enjoy the baking heat.
Indeed.
And we shall speak to you same time next week. Tim Vickery there with all the news from South America that's fit to print and indeed talk about. There's a handy spin the wheel thing that I want to tell you about coming up later from Neil, who managed to come up with this thing on Twitter, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
No, I've seen this. This is a bit of a joke.
It's all about the people that you've upset and who's going to upset you next. But we haven't got time to do it now. We'll do it very soon. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. You can, of course, tweet us at the Two Mics. You can go and check out our Facebook page as well, because coming up this week, we'll have all the normal things going on. We'll have the Porky Quiz. We'll have Porky Vision.
Yes.
We'll have Ask Porky later on tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Now, this, I have to say, is one of the greatest inventions I've ever seen. And it's called something like wheeldecide.com. And it was set up by one of our Twitterers called Neil, right? And what it is you spin the wheel. Have you tried this?
No.
And it says, who will Porky upset this week? You spin the wheel, and it spins round and round and round like the Wheel of Fortune.
Well, it actually spins?
It spins. Look, I'll show you. We can do it again. Look, I'm going to press it there. You've just got Vinnie Jones, actually.
Yeah.
But when it comes back, you spin it like that.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that brilliant?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
And now it's fallen on cyclists.
And that's...
And you spin it again, right?
Yeah.
And let's see, what does it come up with now? It comes up with, Vinnie Jones again.
And it's been invented by one of our listeners,
and it's been put up by one of our listeners. And
brilliant.
The different categories are, you've got Millwall fans, the French, Glasgow, rucksackers.
This is all very unkind.
And lots of people, of course, said, well, the trouble is there's so many categories. You've got Hull in there. Pyongyang is also in there.
I mean, Pyongyang.
It was his birthday yesterday, wasn't it?
Oh, Lee Jong or
Kim Jong-un. Shares it with Elvis and David Bowie.
Good God, does he?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, look, thanks.
So anyway, it was very well done, you have to say, to Neil. You're all right, by the way.
Yes, it's okay. I'm recovering from a bit of a cold. I thought I got over it, but it lingers.
Yes.
That's very kind. And who's that from?
It's from Neil.
Neil, and are we going to put that out to...
well, I've retweeted it already.
Oh, OK. Well, I'll do a bit of that then, because I'm not sensitive about the fact that I'm being taken to task.
No.
But
and you did. You have famously upset quite a lot of people in quite a lot of places.
Well, I hope not, because I certainly don't set out to upset people. I think just by talking the truth, speaking the truth, you are bound to, at some times, rub up against those who would rather suppress.
This is a fabulous show, you know.
The truth.
Everybody rubbing up against anybody.
Now, listen, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about,
Yeah,
right? Because we have so many exciting new plans for the year, don't we? It's the two mics, and one of them that we've been discussing with our advisors, because of course we had the annual general meeting of Two Mics Inc.
That's right.
Last week.
Yeah. Quite a lot of tequila was taken by one of us.
Yeah, and it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Is the idea that this year sometime we'll have a Two Mics convention.
Yes.
Okay? That was one of the
right. It was one of the
thoughts.
ideas, yeah.
Now, what I wanted to...
be quite unconventional, wouldn't it?
Well, be quite unconventional, but I wanted to just comfort and reassure our millions of listeners and those who might want to flock to the convention that we will not be charging what they're charging for the next Sherlock Holmes convention as a result of the publicity given to it by that great actor Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, yes.
Where if you want to go and...
One of your Eton boys.
Well, one of my Eton boys. Where if you want to go and you want to... particularly get into the VIP area, then the ticket to the convention will be £2,995.
£2,995.
£3,000.
What, to meet old Cumberbatch?
Well, you don't even meet him.
Really?
This is the whole point. Benedict Cumberbatch's return in the title role of Sherlock made it the most watched programme of the festive season. It even beat the Queen's Speech, OK?
Wow.
But far from thanking viewers, fans are being charged up to £2,995 to attend this year's Sherlock convention.
Right.
It's organised by... this is nothing to do with Benedict Cumberbatch per se, OK?
No, so it's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
But is this being organised by the production company, presumably?
I'm just about to tell you. Organised by co-producers Hartswood Films, the convention in October will feature props and costumes from the show, as well as discussion panels and meet and greet opportunities.
Right. Well, who are you going to meet and greet if it's not him?
This is the point. The £2,995 VIP ticket includes access to all 3 days of the Birmingham convention.
Right.
Ooh, it's a Birmingham. A T-shirt. A T-shirt. You can get a Two Mics T-shirt for £10.
Yeah, exactly.
A T-shirt and drinks reception, among other perks. But the staggering price has provoked fans who've said...
You get 300 T-shirts from the Two Mics for that price.
On websites, quote, have you seen the prices? Have you seen the light?
Have you seen the time?
Yeah, have you seen the time? One fan wrote on the event's face page book, they're ridiculous. Another wrote, £2,995 for VIP. Wow. And that's without the guests confirmed. Now, the VIP ticket also includes a pre-signed Benedict Cumberbatch autograph.
Oh, great.
But we know what pre-signed autographs often are. They're often done by a machine.
Yes, they are.
And I'm not saying that this one is. But I mean, anyway, although Hartswood has yet to confirm whether the actor or any of the show's other stars will attend. So you might
That's
not
outrageous.
You might not,
it's really awful, isn't it?
Yeah. And now, in fairness, a one-day adult ticket starts at £45, but that in itself...
Well, you don't get nothing for that.
No. That in itself is a 32% increase on last year's price.
Blimey.
The prices were released last week, days after the first episode of Sherlock's 4th series was broadcast on BBC One, and it follows outrage at Cumberbatch's failure to attend last year's convention. His co-star Martin Freeman, who plays Dr. Watson, was also a no-show.
That's awful, isn't it?
And, well, I think what they've done
surely
is...
nobody's going to pay that kind of money for nothing.
Well, last year, of course, everybody goes to this and they expect to see the star of the show, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right.
Now, let's make it absolutely clear, he never gave a commitment to go. It wasn't like he didn't show up.
Right.
It was just an assumption by the fans.
Right.
So what they've had to do this year is they've had to say, look, we cannot guarantee his attendance.
Yeah.
even before you've bought the money.
Yeah.
Doubtless there will be even
That's
more
shocking.
difficulty ensuring the show's main trio will be there this year, since Amanda Abington, who played Freeman's wife, the character killed off last week, has now broken up with him off screen.
Oh, dear.
My God.
That's incredible cheek, isn't it, to ask that kind of money?
Well, $3,000, and you don't even... I mean, you know, if we have a Two Mics convention, one thing we can promise those who come, we will attend.
Money will be there, yeah, for sure. For most of it, anyway.
That's right.
We might have to leave early. But at least, I mean, it won't be $3,000 ahead either.
No, it won't be $3,000 ahead, no. 30 quid?
Yeah, maybe.
300 for a VIP seat?
Well, something like that.
In fact, you can have a night out with the Two Mics for 25 quid. But you've got to bring your own booze.
Well, you've got to bring your own booze. Yeah, I've got a better invitation than that, right?
Yes.
I've been invited in my capacity as a parent to the PTA annual curry and quiz evening. Right?
Curry and quiz, eh?
Which only costs between, what was it, £8?
Yeah.
£8. You feel free to bring your own booze, it says.
Sorry, does that include you and the mother of your children?
No, I think that's per head.
So that's 16.
So that's £16.
And for that you get a bit of curry.
Curry dinner will be served between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Is
this in like this?
I don't want to be too specific about the school, obviously.
No, sorry. Won't it be in the school like dining room?
Yeah, the school canteen.
School canteen.
I hope you're able to attend this event, which is a great success in recent years. There's going to be a raffle, spot prizes, and prizes for the winning team.
Right, now what about alcoholic refreshment?
It says you bring your own.
Oh, really?
Soft drinks will be served.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything worse.
No, I can't either.
Than going to a parent-teacher evening.
Well, hang on. You're putting down the parents of the other children in your son's class.
I don't like to mix with them, really.
You don't? Why? Why? Do you think they're the great unwashed?
No, it's not that. I don't have anything to say to them.
Really?
No.
Well, hang on. They're parents who are trying to educate the children, same as you. There must be a discussion basis.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, come off.
If I need to have a discussion, I have a discussion with the teachers.
Yeah?
You know, about a specific thing.
Oh, you're too good to talk to other parents.
It's not about that, no.
Too superior,
No, listen, you're the snobbish one around here. All I'm saying is it's not my kind of... I remember a friend of mine up in Scotland, he used to edit one of the papers up there. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to give it away. But he was invited to... they had a fundraiser or something like that.
Yes.
And he was telling me about it, that they were having tables of 12, and it was a fundraiser for the school.
Yeah.
Because I think it was, the school needed money for something or other. And so he'd organised a table of 12. He booked it, right?
Yeah.
And he had to have a meeting with some of these people who wanted to go along. And he said, "What about the wine?" And they said, "Well, how much were you thinking of buying?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, about 12 bottles." And they all nearly died of heart failure.
Yeah.
And this was in Scotland.
This is Scotland.
They all said, "Well, we didn't think we'd need more than about 4."
Yeah. So
Between 12.
No, it'll be 12.
And this guy, being a newspaper man, was like, "Well, we'll need at least a bottle each."
Yeah, exactly.
And they were horrified.
Yeah, well,
you would need a dozen bottles.
At least you had a proper thing in person.
Yeah, exactly right.
These parent-teacher things, they're just a disaster, aren't they?
Well,
they just never work.
You can't see me doing that, really, can you?
Well, I remember at one school I went to, the parents and teachers got together to build a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
Built a swimming pool. I mean, it just collapsed, it was useless. It was
How about this from Jason? He says, "I just drove my car into a ditch, listening to Porky's live commentary on the blade moving through Hull."
That's right, yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You talk like Marlene Dietrich, and you dance like Zizi Jeanmaire. Your clothes are all made by Balmain, and there's diamonds and pearls in your hair. Yes, there are. You live in a fancy apartment off the boulevard Saint-Michel, where you keep your Rolling Stones records and a friend of Sacha Distel. Yes, you do.
Now, do you know where this guy was from?
He was from...
The only reason I ask is I was asked the question and I wasn't sure.
Hang on, I'll tell you now.
I assumed he was probably French, but he might have been English, I don't know.
Wasn't he from, like, Sicily or somewhere like that?
I don't know.
Hang on, let me find out.
Well, I can find out for myself.
Delhi. He was from Delhi.
Oh, was he?
Born into a music family in Delhi, his parents were classical musicians, and his brothers Eden Kane, real name Richard Graham, and Clive Sands, real name Robin, both became pop stars. So I think it was a British family, but
sort of Cliff Richard-esque.
Indian-based, yeah, very much so, yeah.
Now, how about this? Nat says, and I really wish you hadn't said this, Nat, when is Porky's album coming out? I'd buy it.
Oh, yeah, OK. Well,
so there's another project for you to
It's
chase
another
down.
project we'll be working on.
We can use that picture from the fireplace and put an album out.
Picture from the fireplace, put out a festive album
William
maybe
says,
next year.
Robert Donut, the first version of 39 Steps, was born in a suburb of Manchester, Withington.
Oh, really? Was he? Yeah, OK. That's good.
Thomas says, you'll need to stay 39 steps away from Vinnie Jones.
Mm-hmm. Well... I think Vinny and I have come to an accord. You know, I praised him for sending his daughter to Stowe School, which I thought was a very good thing to do.
Yeah. Alan says, I bet Man of the People Porky would consider introducing cat tax to all his tenants.
Well, I probably would, actually, because cats do terrible damage to property. If it's your property...
And also, you don't mind imposing taxes. You just don't like paying the ones that get imposed by others.
Well, that's absolutely right. If it's your cat, your property, then good luck to you, but not on my property, please.
Giftgaff says, Porky complaining about income tax after the vast investment in his heart by the NHS is like pub landlords subjected to dirty glasses.
Well, you know, come on, you've got to get all this into perspective. Listen, just on Peter Starstead there, because, you know, our expert there, John, played a few bars from that most famous hit of his, Where'd You Go to My Lovely? If I said to you, and, you know, I hate doing these silly little quizzes just out of the blue, but name one other Peter Starstead hit, could you?
I don't think so, no.
I couldn't either.
I don't think he had another hit, did he?
He released 2 singles a year between 1967 and 1987.
Really?
2 singles a year.
2 a year, that's 40 singles.
Including one called... That's 40 singles, including one called Beirut.
No, that one.
I'm sure I would have remembered because I've been to Beirut quite a few times.
Well, why would you remember a song called Beirut just because you've been there?
Well, because, you know, Beirut, when I went there, there was a civil war going on, so you didn't actually quite remember it.
No, I know that, but you wouldn't necessarily know that there was a song called Beirut.
Well, you kind of would. I mean, for instance, I've been to Berlin, and I know there's a group called Berlin.
Yes, but they're not from Berlin, are they?
Eh?
They're not from Berlin.
No, but they're called Berlin.
They are called Berlin.
I've been to Sydney, and I know a bloke called Sydney. You know, I mean,
Sydney Smith. There's a pub called the Sydney Smith.
Sydney Poitier,
Sydney Poitier.
People like that. Yeah, that's right, yeah. In fact, who's the other Sydney? Oh, yeah, that's right, the vicar in Grantchester.
Well, there's loads of Sydneys. There's Sid James.
Yeah, so you remember, you know, by association, you remember these things, don't you? So anyway, Beirut, that was apparently a hit single of his. Take Your Clothes. Take Off Your Clothes.
Take Off Your Clothes.
Don't
know that one, no.
I'm a Cathedral.
No.
And Frozen Orange Juice.
No.
Were 4 big hits of his.
Big hits?
Yeah.
Well, they couldn't have been big hits because you'd remember them.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, you know, I suppose when you write one song which is so massive, it was top of the charts for 4 weeks, and apparently that was in the days when, you know, there was so many great songs around. You know,
and you know what's also interesting about it being such a big song, a big hit, that nobody else, to my knowledge, has ever recorded it. Because, you know, normally if you get something like that, you know, some other people will give it a go, particularly, you know, this many years later.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
I
totally agree.
I had the misfortune of hearing a remake of the Fairy Tale in New York.
Right.
By, what's his face, the guy from Boy's Own.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. Okay. I know what you mean. The Irish guy.
Yeah, the Irish guy.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Brian?
No, not Brian McFadden.
Okay, yeah.
He's Westlife, wasn't he?
He was in Westlife, was he? Anyway, it says here that until his unfortunate death, which was just a few days ago, obviously.
Oh, look, we're watching a game of tennis up here, by the way. With,
no, I'm not watching a game of tennis. No.
Look what it says at the bottom of the screen. Sydney.com.
Sydney.com, yeah. Well, it's the start of the Australian Open very soon, isn't it? Because that's the one that Andy Murray is desperate to win.
Yes.
To add to the 2 titles he's got, which is 2 Wimbledons and 1 US. He wants to win all 4, like all the great tennis players.
Yes.
But anyway, listen, up until he died last week, Peter Starstead was still earning £60,000 a year in royalties from that one record, yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
amazing
incredible.
when... I tell you what, you know, just for one record like that, I'm trying to remember which one he kept off the top. It was a 60s smash hit for a month, and I think it kept a Beatles song off the...
Really?
What year was it? 1969, it could have been Beatles. 69, they were more or less finished, weren't they?
No, it couldn't have been, no.
Yeah, anyway, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And a haunting record, because the story behind it was of a girl born in poverty in Naples who somehow became part of the European jet set.
And was it not supposed to be about somebody in particular? A bit like You're So Vain.
Well,
you know, everybody speculated about who it was about.
I don't know.
It was about Warren Beatty.
But of course, I always assumed that this one was a high-class hooker.
Did you?
Because, which other way?
Well, why would you assume that?
Well, which other way?
Because you have a rather sordid view of the world.
No. Which other way do you get from being, you know, a ragtag and bobble urchin from the back streets of Naples to living in, wherever it was in Paris. You know what I mean?
Juan Le Pen.
Juan Le Pen and all that kind of stuff,
that was in the south of France.
Yeah.
But, well, it happens because people can be spotted by model agencies or spotted by, rich people. Naples is a place where a lot of rich people go.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about her being a model or an actress or anything like that. So I assumed that she was a high-class hooker.
Really?
And,
that's bad news for the Aga Khan, because he's in the song, isn't he? He sent her a racehorse. He sent her a racehorse for Christmas.
Oh, did he? Blimey.
So,
it wouldn't be the current Aga Khan, because that was quite a few years ago.
It was, yeah. Jamie says this: if Porky brings an album out, then I'm going to go live on the moon. The only way to save my ears and not be haunted for life.
Well, I've had a few approaches over the years about my singing abilities.
Really?
In fact, I had to make a song, of course, called Painted Black, but I might re-release that soon, actually, because we might get the video remastered, right?
What, the Painted Black one?
Well, yeah, it's on tape at the moment, and it's the only way we've got it.
Well, no, it's on YouTube, isn't it?
Is it on YouTube?
I'm sure it is on YouTube.
Is it? Okay.
I think so.
And we could have that remastered, put onto a DVD, and then make it available on Two Mikes TV for the delectation of our millions of listeners.
The delectation.
Yes.
David says, how about a Two Mikes pub crawl through Fleet Street and Wapping instead of a convention?
Well, funny you should say that, but of course...
It's harder to organise that, though. You can't suddenly just turn up from from one pub to another with about 35, 40 people.
But then again, I'm sorry to keep sort of piling the information on our millions of listeners out there, but we have been talking to a publishing company about the Two Mikes annual for Christmas, and one of the things they want to do is organise a pub crawl.
Is that right?
The thing is, we've been to so many pubs during our life, we don't have to bother because it's done.
No, exactly.
Yes.
Now, because we're talking to Lachlan Cartwright, the other story that's interesting at ce moment, as you like to say, is the Kardashian story. Because remember when it happened in Paris, when Kim Kardashian was robbed? Everybody said, nobody really believes this. Lots of questions. They've just arrested a whole bunch of people, right?
Right.
They've just now confirmed, and this is coming from William on Twitter, it's a story that's out there on Mail Online. They've just confirmed that they've arrested the chauffeur, aged 27, who drove the Kardashian family around in Paris.
I see.
But all the other people they've arrested are a bit like the Hatton Garden gang.
Right.
They're all these old French mafia people.
Right.
Who apparently were discovered with sort of, suitcases full of money.
Yeah.
140,000 euros in one suitcase, a couple of 100,000 euros in another suitcase. But it does suggest that it did actually happen.
Well,
and it does suggest that actually all of our misgivings about whether it was just a publicity stunt were rather off the mark.
Does it suggest maybe that this boy was like a stool pigeon and these older sort of French mafia guys might have been putting a bit of pressure on him?
Yeah, very possibly so. And apparently they're not going to interview the concierge and ask him to identify anybody, which is also a bit weird. We'll find out from Lachlan what it's all about.
Indeed.
But it certainly sounds like it's now it was the real deal.
That's right.
As it were. Ronan Keating, says Pascal.
Ronan Keating.
Boy's Own is the name you're looking for. Yeah. Ronan Keating did a version of Fairy Tale in New York
with
some unnamed woman, which was horrendous.
You don't want that.
And not only was it horrendous, but they changed the lyrics to make them slightly more kind of anodyne and PG rated. It was awful. Absolutely awful.
Dom here says, hopefully nobody robs Porky's squat. All they get is a Butlins trophy and a packet of fish fingers, unless they can breach the locked room. There is no locked room, believe me. I don't mind the joke going on, but it's a pointless one because there's no locked room.
Funny enough, somebody had posted the other day that famous picture of you from behind the locked fire escape in Newcastle.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So I put that out on Facebook a bit earlier.
Yes.
To say that's where you'd been hiding since the Everton result.
Could well have been. It's a very, very shocking moment.
So you're going up to Manchester City on Sunday?
Sunday, yeah. Well, I'm hoping to, but I mean, the problem is these things have a habit of turning on its head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weather could be very bad. If it's minus 10... at the weekend, you'd be in a mug to get on a train and travel 200 miles there and 200 miles back.
Also, it'd be very, very chilly sitting watching a football
match. I don't mind that.
I
I think the cold and the ice and the frost is all part of the great, backdrop to football in this country. Right. I haven't got a problem with that at all.
Now,
it's the sheer, damned inconvenience of getting there and back.
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to do something other than outdoor pursuits, right? Again, William has sent this in. I'm thankful for it. Royal Albert Hall box for sale. A 12-seat grand tier level box, the first to be available for nearly 10 years. The buyer of the box will be on the same level as the Queen when she visits the venue. The owner will receive a membership to Corporation of the Halls of Arts and Sciences. How much do you think that goes for?
I think I've seen the story. Is it? It's either 25 grand or 250 grand. I can't remember.
No, it's 2.5 million.
2.5 million.
Million.
The box?
Yes, the box.
For how long?
Well, I think you have it for as long as you want
In perpetuity.
Yeah. 9 years ago, apparently, a 10-seat box in the same area of the Grand Tier was 1.2 million.
Golly.
So if you buy it for 2.5, presumably
an investment.
In 10 years, you can sell it for 10.
Yeah, well, it's probably not yours to sell, you see. You buy a lease and probably the lease
like
is
a
for 10 years.
debenture or something
Yeah,
like
that's right. Yeah, something like that, yeah.
It's being sold by Harrods Estates. They call the sale at the Kensington venue an extremely rare opportunity.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it is a very rare opportunity, but anybody's got £2.5 million to waste on a box at the Albert Hall.
It's ideal for entertaining, it says here.
Well, I'm sure it is, but I mean, how many things happen at the Royal Albert Hall that you'd want to go and see?
Well, there's all sorts of things. I mean, there's all sorts of concerts. Eric Clapton played there last year, for example.
OK, one Eric Clapton concert. I'd go to the Christmas Carol concert.
They have tennis there, I think, don't they? They used to have.
I don't watch tennis at the Royal Albert Hall, thanks. No.
Last night, the proms and all that?
Yeah, well, last night the prom's been hijacked, really. It's a bit of a sort of political battle now, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Well, it is, because last year...
because they wave Union Jacks around.
No. Last year they were waving European flags around as well as Union Jacks,
Yeah, well,
and it was Brexit and anti-Brexit and all that.
Well, if you're in a box quaffing champagne, you wouldn't care, would you?
Yeah, well, I suppose not really, yeah.
I think it's an opportunity for you. I think if you've got a spare couple of million lying around...
I think not, my
you
friend.
you should go and buy one.
I think
Anyway,
not.
we'll talk some more about that. We'll talk to Lachlan Cartwright coming up because, of course, Meryl Streep is all over the front pages this morning.
Yes.
She made a name for herself last night at the Golden Globes, having a go
in
at
more
Donald
ways
Trump.
than one.
Donald Trump, of course, then responded by calling her an overrated actress and a flunky of Hillary Clinton's. So it's all kicking off. They're all very sad in Hollywood. They don't want Trump to be president, but unfortunately for them, he is. Lachlan Cartwright coming up next. Sport, we are the two mics. Of course, the Trump inauguration is not that far away. It's the 20th of January, I believe, which is a Friday. People have been asking us if we're doing a show based around the inauguration. I'm not certain that we are, because I think time-wise it wouldn't necessarily work.
Well, it happens at about 11 o'clock in the morning, DC time.
It goes on for a few hours.
So that's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. Goes on all day. Goes on all day, and then you've got the balls in the evening and all that.
That's
so
what I mean.
it is on all day, but it's out of our time zone, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Unless the Burgermeisters here at TalkSport realise that we probably are the most knowledgeable pair of journos alive to be able to do those things and want to send us to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, well, it could happen.
Wouldn't have a problem with.
Could happen. Let's talk to Lachlan Cartwright, though, who is over in the US of A. He's executive editor of Radar Online, because all the news when you woke up yesterday morning and all the news this morning as well on the front pages is all about Meryl Streep, all about Donald Trump, and all about how Hollywood is in a very sad state altogether. Lachlan, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning, Lachlan. Thanks for joining us.
I read a very interesting tweet from an old mate of mine called John Cassidy, who works at the New Yorker, who said, Donald Trump is the master of media manipulation. Of course, he wants everybody to talk about his row with Meryl Streep rather than anything else that's going on with his, appointed administration that is in the works. But, I mean, it was an extraordinary night, wasn't it?
It was, for many reasons. Meryl Streep obviously took all the headlines. But when you look at the awards, which is always a good indicator for what's to come with the Oscars, La La Land cleaned up, which is a fantastic production if your audience hasn't seen it as yet.
Right, haven't seen it. No.
And the other, that was the highlight, and the low light was probably Jimmy Fallon, who as host was really missing from the likes of what we've seen in the past with Ricky Gervais and some of the other funny people who've been up on stage. His jokes missed the mark, and well, he wasn't that great in the top spot. But obviously, all the headlines dominated by Meryl Streep, and your comment there regarding the tweet does go to something here that tomorrow, or today your time, tomorrow my time, does seem a very important day where we're going to have 4 hearings on Trump appointees, including the very controversial Secretary of State, the former Exxon CEO. It'll also be Obama's last speech tomorrow. So Donald Trump has certainly managed to dominate the headlines by taking on Meryl Streep. It was only last year, actually, in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, he said he admired Meryl Streep, calling her an excellent actress. He certainly wasn't saying that on Twitter this morning, saying she was overrated, she was a Hillary flunky. But that speech did leave everyone floored. Meryl Streep's speech, she didn't mention Donald Trump by name, but you certainly knew who she was talking about. And for the Hollywood liberal elite, she was playing to that room. That was what everyone was thinking in that room. And it was certainly what everyone was talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, Lachlan, I thought it was a cowardly attack because, as you quite rightly say, they were all queuing up to be Queen Bee, of the Hollywood, as you quite rightly say, liberal elite, who can get in first and put the boot in on a president they regard as far too right-wing and who shouldn't have beaten, their champion, Hillary Clinton. However, can I ask you this? In this country, there's a big link between government and funding of the arts. Does that not exist in America? I mean, it's a fragile business, the movie business, and quite often government policy can really, improve or otherwise the fortunes of that industry.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much of a stranglehold as it does in the UK or in Australia, where funding of the arts is very much linked into government money.
Yeah.
Here it's played a little bit differently, and that's why I think Hollywood is such a bubble. Similar to, I guess, the financial industry and Wall Street here in New York being its own bubble, and the DC bubble being its own bubble. So it's less tied into the money. But you've got to remember, these are the same group of celebrities who all were, saying on air and tweeting that they were going to move to Canada or South Africa or Australia when Donald Trump got into office. I haven't seen any of them board an aircraft, one-way ticket to inhale the country.
Sure.
But Meryl Streep did certainly have a very pointed speech last night, and I think it did resonate with a fair chunk of the country. But that goes to the heart of why this country is so split right now.
Sorry, Lachlan, is it accepted or not accepted that President Trump-elect did insult the disabled reporter? Or is his explanation that I didn't? I was merely trying to explain that
I don't think there's any doubt that
the boy was wild. No, well, what's the general perception in America?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask probably anyone in New York, it would be very clear that he did insult that journalist, as it would in probably on the West Coast. But if you ask someone in Trump heartland, similar to their views on the Russian hack that the intelligence community has publicised in their report, they would say either it didn't happen or it's a beat up or we don't care.
Yeah.
And that's certainly their viewpoint. But look, I think anyone who saw that performance by Donald Trump when he was clearly imitating that disabled reporter and clearly criticising. It's very obvious what he's doing there.
And it's a pretty unsavoury episode. But I don't think Meryl Streep has done herself any favours either, because as much as she may have indeed suffered heartbreak watching that, it's as many people have said here, it looks like she's just acting. It looks as though she's not particularly sincere about it. Her voice is trembling. She says that she's lost her voice, and she looks literally. I mean, I described Hollywood as the saddest place on the planet right now, because it almost looks as if that's what they're trying to portray, that they're all terribly, terribly upset by this, but as you say, they're not really doing anything about it. And in fact, their support of Hillary Clinton kind of doomed her.
Yeah, well, that's the other interesting point here. I mean, Hillary Clinton had every celebrity, and their mum and their dog lining up.
Yeah.
Her last big event was that concert with Bruce Springsteen and Jay-Z and Beyonce, and she had everyone from Lena Dunham to Meryl Streep backing her. But actually, it probably worked against her, because these are the types of people that don't resonate with voters in the Rust Belt and voters that want to go against the grain and go against the establishment. So, if anything, I think a lot of these big celebrities did Hillary Clinton a bit of damage.
Yeah, and as far as the inauguration goes, I mean, we saw a story last week about the Rockettes who are refusing to go and take part in it. I mean, has anybody actually put their name down as going to be participants yet?
Well, I've got a Mike and Mike exclusive for you, which is Paul Anka.
Paul Anka.
Radar Online has learnt that Paul Anka has been lined up to sing at the inauguration.
Wow.
He has accepted. I can't divulge the song that he is singing, because that is going to be divulged on Radio Online in the next few days. But, certainly a lot of people have passed on Donald Trump's offer, but Paul Anka will be there.
Well, there we are.
And he will be singing.
Paul Anka's aged about 107.
I was going to say, he's one of those guys you think has already sort of perhaps passed on to another world. But I'll tell you what the other coverage is.
He's still alive and kicking. He's been speaking to us this week. So
cool. Excellent. Well, I'll tell you the other big winner last night was, of course, The Night Manager, one of Porky's favourite movies, favourite miniseries. Tom Hiddleston, Hugh Laurie, and Olivia Colman. Hugh Laurie's speech, I thought, was a bit cleverer than Meryl Streep's. It was a bit more to the point. But apparently, Tom Hiddleston went a bit mad, and he's being described as Tom Hiddlebore because he ran off at the mouth about all the humanitarian work for UNICEF he's been doing in South Sudan.
If there's anything that the punters and the public don't like more than a celebrity going off on a political tirade to back a politician, i.e. Meryl Streep, is a celebrity going off on a tirade about doing good deeds in Africa or South Sudan or whatever as it was in Tom Hiddleston's case. So I think that kind of lost the room. Hugh Laurie's speech I thought was fantastic, and The Night Manager deserved its accolades, as did The People versus O.J. Simpson, another very, very good miniseries that aired on FX here last year. But, I mean, there were a couple of surprises. What did you guys think in terms of what shocked you, winner-wise?
In terms of winners? Well, I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen The Crown. I've only seen sort of trailers for it, and it looks a bit dull. And I was quite surprised that did very well.
Yeah, that was Netflix's first accolade, and that's certainly something the streaming service has been gunning for. Amazingly, this year HBO missed out, and that used to be the home of some of these really great productions. But The Crown, on the face of it, I agree, it does appear to be a bit dry, but it is a really, really good show, and it does very much get going once you've invested in it. What was a big surprise to many people was that Moonlight only picked up one award. That was the Best Picture Drama, very much deserved, but missed out on a lot of other categories. And also, I think what is really the best film out there, guys, is Manchester by the Sea. That only took home one gong for Best Actor for Casey Affleck, but that is by far my pick for the Best Oscar Picture this year.
Okay, that's great. How does Hugh Laurie go down with the West Coast mob, by the way, Lachlan? Because he's been around in America for such a long time, but he's still thoroughly British, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of these guys that bangs around and gets a lot of work. He's usually in sort of the best. He's that guy sort of in the background. He's not the main actor in a lot of these shows, but he's certainly well liked in the Hollywood scene.
Yeah, absolutely. He was in The Night Manager as well, wasn't he? With
he won Best Supporting Actor.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Was that popular? That was going down with people well?
Yeah, funnily enough, it caught on here quite late in the game. It was on BBC America over here, but sort of a few months after it aired over in the UK, a lot of people were talking about it, and it got very, very good raps over here.
Great.
One final question, Lachlan, away from the Golden Globes, just because you're on top of these things. All of those people, and I include us in this conversation, I think, because I think you and I had this chat. The whole Kim Kardashian scenario now appears to have been more true than anybody really ever thought. They've now arrested the chauffeur who drove her around. They've arrested a whole bunch of big mafia figures in France. People must be quite surprised, really.
Yeah, I was always suspect on this. I've got to be honest with you guys. I think Kim Kardashian, her whole life is work of fiction and fantasy, and we thought this was just another chapter in that. And I mean, at the time, a lot of people believed it to be an inside job in that Kanye West is well known for having money problems at the moment. So there was suddenly a line of thinking that he was in on it, if not Kim was in on it. But it looks as though that was not the case. 17 arrests made in France yesterday, your time. The age ranges are quite amazing. From teenagers to men in their 50s and 60s. 14 men and 3 women have been arrested. And the breakthrough, we are told, comes from DNA found at the crime scene. That was linked back to at least one of these gentlemen. That was DNA evidence was found on a necklace that was dropped in the street and found by a passerby. And as you said, also one of the chauffeurs arrested today. So, Yeah, I mean, it is actually bizarrely going to be in an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Kim is going to be in that show, her show on the E! Network, recalling tearfully about the crime. So it is turning into an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They don't miss a beat, these Kardashians, to make a buck, even out of what looks now to be a genuine crime.
Absolutely right. Well, Lachlan, listen, appreciate your time as ever. Thank you very much indeed. Lachlan Cartwright there, Executive Editor of Radar Online, who's given us the exclusive story that Paul Anka is going to be the guy entertaining the millions of people around the world watching the Donald Trump inauguration.
Who is aged 75?
75?
75.
I would have said older, but there we are. Well, maybe we can take a guess at what he's going to be singing. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Struggling to find any reference to a hit song by Paul Anka that we think he might perform, but his first hit, believe it or not, was in 1956.
Yeah, and you wrote?
I Confess.
I Confess.
I don't know that one. Diana, which I think a few people might know. But I don't see anything really from the sort of early 60s.
Did you say he wrote the words to My Way?
He did write the lyrics to My Way, yeah.
The Frank Sinatra song.
Eh?
The Frank Sinatra song.
The Frank Sinatra My Way song, yeah. And he also wrote She's a Lady, which is Tom Jones' song.
The time has come.
You got this wrong the other week, and you got the clips of the week.
Okay.
You're Having My Baby, that's another one that some people would know.
Well, he sang that himself, didn't he? Having My Baby.
Well, this is what I'm trying to find.
What
the
a
songs
lovely way
that
to
he'll
say
do.
how much you love me.
Well, maybe he's going to do My Way. Maybe he's going to do a Donald Trump version of My Way.
That
would work.
See, that's a good thought. Are you sure he didn't write that great Harry Nilsson song Without You?
I'm pretty sure he didn't. No,
I can't live.
I'm pretty sure Harry Nilsson wrote that.
Living is without.
I mean, he's got all these hits, like 1977, My Best Friend's Wife.
Yeah.
Never
You're
gonna
my
fall
best friend's wife. Is that
no, that's our best friend's girl.
Best friend's
by
girl.
The Cars.
Okay.
Never going to fall in love again. I sort of know, but I don't know if it's the same one.
I'll never fall in love again.
You don't have to sing every one of these songs.
Wasn't that some female singer?
Yeah. Was
what
it Carpenters
do you get when you fall in love?
Yeah, all right. Don't you have to sing every bloody
song? No, that
song
was Helen
I read
Shapiro
out.
or somebody like
Helen
that.
Shapiro?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It was, yeah.
I Can't Help Loving You. I mean, there's also, so many of these songs have got different, the same title but different actual, lyrics, different songs. So I don't know. Yes. I can't see anything here that I think he would do. If it was down to me, I would say just do My Way.
Okay.
That's what everybody knows.
I've got news for you here. Without You was actually written by the members of the group Badfinger.
No, was it?
Without You is a song written by Pete Ham and Tom Evans of British rock group Badfinger, first released in 1970.
Yes.
But there is a terrible history to that, isn't there? Almost everybody who was associated with that song died.
Yeah.
There was for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
Harry Nilsson took it to the top in 1972. I can't
Don't
forget
sing
tomorrow when I think of all my sorrows. I had you there. Oops, sorry. That was just my device.
Why is your device
I
making
had
noise?
you there and then I let you go.
Now, talking about boilers, right? Here's one from Ace in Upminster.
Yes.
It says there are free boiler schemes in this country too. This is apropos of the thing in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
I've had 5 in the last 2 years.
What?
I'm sure he's taking a mickey.
What have you done with your 5 boilers?
As long as the tenant claims the right benefits, they are eligible. Thank you, all the taxpayers.
Maybe he's got 5 properties.
I'm sure
he might have. He might have.
I'm sure he's just winding us
I
up.
could do the new boiler. I might get in on that scheme. That's quite good thinking.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't been aware of it, to be honest.
Yes.
Here's one from Bourbon Street. I think Streep was annoyed by Trump's comments that he will make Hollywood films great again. # you're fired.
Yes, a bit
harsh. You see, he was slagging off Arnold Schwarzenegger as well the other day.
She certainly was.
No, not her.
Who?
He was.
Who was?
Donald Trump was.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, she wasn't slagging him off.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is a very right-wing politician.
Yeah, but apparently he's been taking over the Celebrity Apprentice.
Oh, I see.
And his ratings have fallen by half.
Right.
During the time that he took over compared to when Donald Trump was doing it.
Indeed.
So Trump has now been slagging him off as well.
Indeed.
Yeah,
well, I mean, the slagging off bit, it gets on your nerves, doesn't it? Everybody's at it all the time.
Well, what do you mean it gets on your nerves? What are you talking about?
Well, because
you do nothing but slag people off.
No, I hate
You're
these
slagging people off.
I hate these celebrity slaggings. Listen, something I want to talk to you about here, right?
Go on.
you know that we've had a few strikes in this country lately, and they can be very irritating. You troops strike today, and then railway strikes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think we're a pretty hard-working country, OK?
Do you?
Well, yes, I do.
Are you having a laugh?
No.
I'll tell you what we are, is we are a country that works many, many hours more than we should, and many, many hours more than other countries do.
Yeah, well, that's
but
what
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying.
describe us at all as a hard-working country.
Well, I think we are pretty much so, and I think the unions at the moment are mounting a political campaign, and I think it'll all end in tragedy for them, because I think if the governments find that they can't sort of sort it out, they'll probably have an election or something and get a big majority or something like that. That's just me with my crystal ball.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say to you
believe
was, in one of my political journals today, I was reading about the situation in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
And Italy, you could now officially describe as the laziest country in the world.
I love Italy.
I like Italy, and I like spaghetti, and I like...
You like spaghetti?
Pinot Grigio.
And you like Pinot Grigio?
I like Rome, and it's a great city. I like the Spanish Steps and the...
what about Naples?
I've never been to Naples, actually.
You should go to Naples.
I like the fountains,
Napoli.
the Trevi fountains and all that, you know.
Have you thrown money in there?
No.
Why not?
I just thought it was cheap.
Do you believe in throwing money into fountains?
Not really.
Making a wish?
Not
even as a child?
Not really.
Really?
But anyway, what I was going to say
what
I was going to say is that the Italians have just had a sort of reassessment of themselves, and the absenteeism factor in Italy is a scandal unmatched anywhere else in the world. Now, you just mentioned Naples, right?
Yes.
And that, of course, was a city mentioned in the song, you know, Where Did You Go to My Lovely by Peter Starstead.
Yes. Funnily enough, I've got somebody who tweeted me on that subject because he was disputing your suggestion that she may have been, a lady of dubious virtue. Because it talks about her being educated at the Sorbonne.
At the Sorbonne, yeah. Well,
I mean, although there's no explanation...
She could have had a sugar daddy.
Well, there's no explanation as to how she got from Naples to the Sorbonne.
No,
but certainly it would suggest, anyway, that she was not, in fact, as you were saying.
Well, very few people get taken out of a slum in Naples and said, "Oh, do you want a free education at the Sorbonne in Paris?"
Well, maybe she qualified for it.
Anyway, look, it says here in Naples, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. A third of the traffic police have doctor's certificates that say they should not be working out of doors. Yeah, okay.
Excellent.
It concluded the exploitation of Italy's generous health exemption and disability system was particularly acute in the south of the country.
Yeah.
This is according to a specialist research institute paper at the Bocconi University in Milan. Okay?
Well, there's a great enmity between the north and the south.
Oh, yeah,
in Italy.
absolutely.
In many ways, it's kind of reversed to here, isn't it? Because
It is.
here, the snobbishness sort of goes from the south to the north.
Exactly.
In Italy, it goes the other way.
It does. Last year produced a spate of absenteeism scandals, including the publication of a video showing a policeman clocking on for work in his pyjamas and underpants before going back to bed.
Yeah.
A new study shows that many employees have found a legal way of lightening their workload, allowing them to take refuge in less demanding clerical duties and a range of fringe benefits.
Well, I think you find that's exactly the same as the way the system works here.
Well,
if you found out the true numbers of the police officers who are currently, absent on stress or absent not from outside duties, I bet you find it's not that different.
But once again, it's the public sector. Malingerers were far more frequently to be found in the public sector than in private employment. Those registering under the 1992 disability law amounted to 13.5% of the state sector. In Palermo, right, the Sicilian capital, you've been there, haven't you?
I didn't go to Palermo, actually, because it was a bit too far away from where we were.
Yeah, but you've been to Sicily, yeah?
I was in Sicily, yes.
So in Palermo, Sicilian capital, 270 street sweepers have presented doctors' certificates stating that they are unfit to sweep the roads because their body is the wrong shape. While in Calabria, more than half of staff working in hospitals and clinics possess certificates confirming that they should do nothing more strenuous than sit behind a desk, and they are in fact more ill than the patients they're supposed to be treating. In the southern city of Reggio Calabria, more than half of the 1,178 employees in the public health service are on reduced work regimes because of health problems.
This is a sort of a general worldwide malaise, though, isn't it? It's not just Italy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It says Calabria is a really big problem. According to the Rome Daily newspaper, everything in Calabria appears back to front. More than 100 doctors work in the preventive medicine department, but less than half are needed. Well, they only need 50 doctors, but they've got 100.
Yeah.
50 of them have nothing to do.
Right.
While oncological screening and house visits remain uncovered because doctors will not retrain their specialist skills.
Well, it's the same as the problems that we're reading about and seeing on the TV at the moment in the NHS, you know, where Jeremy Hunt's out there sort of basically defending the NHS, saying, well, yes, they're having a few problems, but it's not as bad as everyone's making out.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is that, you know, the healthcare that was set up in Europe for Italy and for this country many, many decades ago is creaking at the seams.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't work.
Absolutely.
There's too many people, you know, using it.
That's exactly right. But the capital of the Malingrers is the Sicilian town of Agrigento, known as the hypochondriac capital of Italy. There are 54 primary school teachers registered in the town, but every one of them has a certificate saying that they're suffering from a serious, long-lasting disease, or they are unable to work because they're taking care of a relative with an even more serious disease. A generous law introduced in 1992 allows people in this category to take 3 days off work per month and a paid 2-year sabbatical, which they're all currently enjoying.
It's shocking.
It's mad.
There's a teacher at one of my kids' schools, and again, I'm not going to identify which one it is, who's been off for a year.
Yeah.
Which is really upsetting for kids because, you know, they get a teacher, they like the teacher or don't like the teacher. If they like the teacher, they want the teacher to stay teaching them.
But is that for illness or what
stress.
is it? It's stress, okay.
And, I mean, you can't argue with it. You can't say, well, you can't take time off. But it's like, well, if you're getting stressed out doing a job, maybe the job isn't for you.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to take a view of that and say, well, look, we're terribly sorry that you're not feeling well.
Yes.
And we would like to help you in any way we can.
Yes.
But the kids don't know when he's coming back. The kids don't know if he's coming back. And so they're in a kind of limbo situation, and they have to keep covering his job with a selection of other people.
No, it's
which is no good for the kids' education.
Totally agree.
At all. I'm sorry to go banging on about it, but you know, I feel quite strongly about these things.
I don't blame you.
Now, I'm going to tell you about Maradona coming up, since we were talking about Italy.
Madonna.
Not Mara Madonna,
No,
that's Lady Madonna.
Yeah, exactly.
You've gone completely bonkers now. You're back on the Benelin.
Yeah, no.
But also Andy Murray. You'll be very interested to read an interview with him in the Times this morning.
Yes, seen that.
Have you?
Well, I've seen that.
You haven't started crowing about how right you were.
No. I've seen that he's done it. Yeah, go on.
All right, well, I'll get to it in a minute because we're out of time for now, but this is the two mics. Slightly tongue-in-cheek, this, I think, from Dave, who's tweeted out the two mics. Maybe Paul Anka is at Trump's inauguration just for the rhyming slang.
That's not funny.
It's not funny at all, is it? No. I wouldn't send that sort of thing to a national news, national radio station.
No,
Paul says this. John Buchan was 39 years old when he wrote the novel. Could this be the simple answer?
Could be.
Hashtag the 39 steps.
Could be.
And Duncan says, it was Bobby Gentry, not Helen Shapiro, Porky, you plank.
Well, there you
who
go.
sang I'll Never Fall in Love Again.
I'll never fall in love again.
You have to sing it again. It says hashtag idiot. Which is a bit harsh, isn't it?
That is very harsh indeed.
Now, how about this from Michael? Any chance of a birthday shout-out for my boy Daniel? He's 11 today and a big fan. Please do not mention horizontal refreshment.
Of course we wouldn't. Daniel, at 11 years of age, my boy, you have the whole world in front of you. The two mics wish you a very happy, healthy and prosperous future.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mics on Talk Sport. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be doing Heroes and Villains. This is our game that we normally play on a Sunday, actually. We do a show on a Sunday. It's a bit like Winners and Losers. We nominate two villains, two heroes, and then producer Dave behind the glass gets to choose precisely which one of us should win it. I've got a big lead in this at the moment, but Porky may well catch up. You're listening to the Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. Steve says this at the Two Mics. Would Porky accept a knighthood after all, the so-called man of the people? It would surely undermine that claim.
Well, it would depend what I was offered the knighthood for. If it was services to the people, services to animals, services
to animals?
Yeah,
Why would you get it for that?
Well, for looking after my ducks and other animals.
But they might ask for some evidence that you've actually done anything.
Services to society, to industry.
Industry?
To
what sort of industry?
To competitive industry and all that kind of stuff. You know,
well, like
talking about animals.
Of the website, television
Talking
service.
About animals, I see that a former James Bond, Sir Roger Moore, has got involved in my campaign to have circuses closed down.
Has he?
Yes.
I didn't realise that was one of your campaigns.
Circuses and zoos, which...
well, most circuses don't any longer use animals, do
well,
they?
This is the point, but there is one that does. And I first saw this, actually, and it was reported in a Sunday newspaper, and people have picked up on it now. And the point is that the actual story that that it focused on was the fact that a couple of lions are being kept in a cage on the back of a lorry in a lay-by just off the M6 expressway.
What, in this country?
In the Midlands, yeah.
What, you mean there's actually a circus touring this country with animals in it?
Yes.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Yes.
Because I would have thought that no circus actually anymore did that.
No, it is.
What's the name of this circus?
Let me tell you. By the way, Sir Roger Moore's 89 now. He's campaigning on this because what has been discovered is that Thomas Chipperfield, who was Britain's last remaining lion tamer, comes from a circus family.
Well, everybody remembers Chipperfield Circus.
Yeah, of course, several generations. In fact,
but I thought they'd stopped using animals.
Goes back 300 years. Anyway, he is planning to apply for a licence to tour England this year with the show featuring 2 lions and 3 tigers, which are currently being kept at a site close to the M6.
2 lions on my shirt.
2 lions on my shirt, yeah. Sorry, why would you laugh at the miserable fate of a beautiful, magnificent animal?
Because you're such a hypocrite.
What do you mean?
You're just coming... I mean, you sure this is not an old report you're reading?
No. This is 2 lions and 3 tigers, right? If you'd let me finish.
3 tigers on my shirt.
Being kept at a site close to the M6 toll road in Staffordshire, OK? And Sir Roger Moore has written an open letter...
Yeah.
Why do you find this so amusing?
Because I just think it's funny.
This despicable treatment of these magnificent
I don't believe
creatures.
that Chipperfield Circus is using lions.
Well, he's planning to. He's planning to do a tour with these lions, right? So Sir Roger Moore wrote to Theresa May, the Prime Minister.
She's a bit busy at the moment.
Yeah, has asked her to fulfil a manifesto promise to ban wild animals in circuses.
Well, I didn't think that anybody used them. That's my point.
Well, he's trying to make sure that nobody does start using them.
Are you sure he hasn't just jumped on some bandwagon?
No. He says wild animals in real life must feel as if they've been captured by the fictional Dr. No when they're not being forced to...
what about all the animals that were in James Bond
confusing
films?
Tricks on the whip.
What about those alligators that he ran across? You remember?
Yeah, I do. But they at least were in their natural environment in the Caribbean.
He was stepping on their heads.
No, he didn't.
Oh, what did he do then?
A stuntman did it.
Well, somebody was stepping on their heads.
Yeah, but they only stepped on their bodies. I mean, for goodness sake, it was for...
Oh, so that's okay then?
It was a split second. Didn't harm them.
Oh, it didn't harm them. You're an alligator expert.
I'm telling you, none of those alligators died. Or got injured. Because I know. Because I know. I researched it.
Really?
Yeah.
What about all the other animals that he had in the... Because, in fact, Roger Moore's James Bond had more animals, I would say, than any other.
Well, they did a circus one, didn't they? They're all travelling on a train.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that wasn't real. They were actors. Those animals were actors.
Well, the animals weren't real.
Well, the animals were real, but they weren't really in captivity. They were acting animals.
Well, they pretended to be in captivity.
No, yeah, they were. Yeah, they were, actually. Yeah, they were during the film. That's right. Yeah, they were pretending to be subjugated, but they weren't.
Yeah, but I can't believe anyone in this country, right, would ever go and see a circus with animals in it. I wouldn't take my kids to a circus with animals in it. Nobody else would.
Apparently they do. Now, it says, let me see.
Where's he getting all this from?
Well, he's getting it from... And in fact, funny enough, he does refer to the fact that he saw, how animals can be abused close up in the film Octopussy, the one we've just been talking about.
That was the one with set in India,
the travelling circus.
Yeah, in India.
Well, part of it was set in India. I think the travelling circus was in Europe, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think so.
No, I can't remember.
But anyway, it says Mr. Moore's letter failed to mention the strict regulation. This is according to Anthony Beckwith, who co-owns the circus with Mr. Chipperfield.
Oh, yeah.
He says Mr. Moore's letter, or Sir Roger's letter, failed to mention the strict regulations in place to protect the welfare of circus animals. He said maybe if he researched the issue further, he wouldn't be writing such ludicrous letters, making outrageous and unfounded claims.
So Chipperfield's saying that that's absolute rubbish.
Yeah,
then.
They're saying that the animals are very well looked after, and that they wouldn't dream of mistreating them. So there we are.
Well, so what do you mean there we are? You have to come down on one side or the other.
Oh, I'm on the side of Sir Roger Moore. I don't want animals kept in captivity under any circumstances whatsoever.
Are you still a friend of Chester Zoo?
Well, no, I'm killing that off. No, I'm not going to be a friend of Chester Zoo.
You've been saying that for about 4 months now.
No, I'm going to do it. I'm seeing my financial advisors, and we're going to strike that from the...
You only said £100 a year.
Well,
what do you see financial advisors for?
We will strike them from the list of benefactors to the Porkmeister Foundation.
Yeah, I'm looking at Charles Chipperfield Circus presenting our Christmas circus at the Splash and Fun Park.
Yep.
And there's a load of people in the circus arena. There doesn't appear to be any animals in it.
Yeah, there are.
Well, not in this one.
Well, no, but he's planning to. This is the very point. I've read this to you 3 times now. Mr. Chipperfield is planning to apply for a licence for touring this year with a show featuring 2 lions and 3 tigers.
You said they were parked off a lay-by in the M6.
Which are currently being kept at a site close to the M6 toll road in Staffordshire, OK?
Oh, a site?
Yes.
Well, that's different.
Well, they're in cages on the back of a lorry. I saw the pictures in the Sunday newspaper.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, I find that amazing.
Yeah,
I do. I find it absolutely extraordinary.
You might find it amazing.
I would have thought it's almost commercial suicide now for a circus owner to produce a circus act which has got animals in it.
In fact, funnily enough, in their defence, the Chipperfield people say it comes with deep sadness to see Sir Roger Moore speak out against Hamilton circuses, particularly as he worked with them himself.
Yeah.
My uncle John Chipperfield played his stunt double in Octopussy in the tiger scene, and they were my Uncle Dickie's tigers.
There you go.
The film also featured circus elephants and other animals and grossed $187 million at the box office. Sir Roger had no issue with circus animals when he was earning money from them himself.
Well, exactly right.
So that's a bit of a kickback in the teeth, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's a bit of a Hollywood moment, isn't it? Bit of a Meryl Streep scenario.
Yeah, it is.
Now, how about this from Lyle? Now, you might remember some time ago that he sent an Ask Porky into you, I think, to ask whether it would be all right to name his son after you.
Oh, okay.
Right? And he's now sent us in on Twitter at the 2 Mikes.
Yes.
He says, after getting your royal blessing, the day has finally arrived, and Mike Porky Plank Parry Aston Jr. is here.
Oh.
And he's got a birth certificate showing it from the state of Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Certificate of live birth, it says. The state file number is there. Gender male, date of birth January 7th, 2017.
Yeah.
Child's birthplace Allegan County, Michigan. Mother's name before married, Doris Metzler.
Yes.
Mother's birthplace Durban, South Africa. Lyle is born in Cape Town, South Africa.
Yeah.
And there is the date filed, and there is the name. Mike Porky Plank Parry Aston Jr.
And have you got a picture of the certificate?
I've got it here.
Have a look, please.
It's right there.
Let me have a look.
Are you saying you don't believe it?
Let me have a look.
Yeah, go on. Be careful not to touch anything on the screen.
No, hang on. State of Michigan, certificate of live birth.
I've just read all that to you.
Oh, golly. Mike Porky Plank Parry Aston.
Yeah, Junior. So you've got somebody named after you.
That's amazing.
With the addition of the Porky and the Plank.
That's
it's a bit unfortunate, that. I mean, if you're going to name somebody after Porky,
exactly.
you don't have to name them Porky Plank. You just have Mike Parry, surely.
I think this is very strange indeed.
Yeah. Maybe we need a picture of the lad.
Well, hang on. It says the father's name is Lyle Aston. Oh, I see.
I just told you that. Aston's his last name.
I see, yeah. Mike Porky Plank Parry Aston. Well, I have to say...
I mean, the strangest thing about the fact that Lyle asked for that particular blessing from you is that he appears to be a Liverpool fan.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
My God.
He's not an Everton fan.
My God.
But anyway, congratulations.
Yeah, well, as long as I inspire younger people to have a decent, proper, fulfilling and rich life, then I'm all for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, coming up, I'm going to get to that Andy Murray story, or Sir Andy Murray story, because we haven't touched upon that yet.
Okay.
This is TalkSport.
The 2 Mikes, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk.
Weekend.
Yep.
But I hope you've got 2 good ones for each, because obviously we are in competition on that in about 10 minutes' time.
Yes,
or maybe 15. Now,
sorry, how many do we need of each?
We need 2 of each. 2 heroes, 2 villains.
Okay.
Have we not got any yet?
Oh, yeah. I'm just... It's a process of elimination.
Oh, okay.
How many I'm going to leave out?
All right, fine. Now, I wanted to actually do you the service of a compliment, if you don't mind, because you and I would have had many conversations about Sir Andy Murray.
Indeed.
You said he was too young to get the knighthood. You said, people make fun of him. You said that there'll be too much kind of pressure put on his young head and shoulders and all that. He's given an interview to the Times this morning in which he more or less says all of that. He says that when he got an email, originally the email was sent to his wife, Kim.
Yes.
At which point she said to him, do you fancy being a knight? And he said he had a sort of quite long and hard think about it because he thought he was too young to take on what he says so much responsibility, and he's still competing. And he says, obviously, I don't want anything to distract me or affect my performance. But he talked to his wife Kim, his mother Judy. He didn't even ask his brother, though, about whether he should get it because he thought he'd keep it secret from him. He obviously doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
But he also said, and here was the other thing that I thought was interesting, he said an element of intrigue from other players in the locker room. Some jokingly called him Sir, although Murray feels a little uncomfortable. A few of the players have been chatting to me about it and asking how it works, what does it mean, and what do we call you? And I said, surely people won't do that. But they did. Yeah. So you got that right.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you a compliment. And
right,
says,
thank you very much.
You can call me Andy, that's just fine.
Yes.
Because I've noticed, by the way, that in various different news bulletins, sports bulletins here at Talk Sport, some people call him Sir Andy Murray, and it sounds silly. It just sounds daft.
It does.
Sir Andy Murray's taking on Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
Sounds ridiculous.
Of course it does.
So should we not have a not for us to say, because we don't run this place, but
yes.
should we not have a house style, which says either we call him Andy Murray or we don't?
I think we just call him Andy Murray because I think that's the way he'd want to be referred to
I think
as well.
that's what he more or less says.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Sir Norman Brooks, have you ever heard of him?
Who?
Sir Norman Brooks.
Sir Norman Brooks. No, who's he?
He's apparently the Australian who won Wimbledon twice. Is the only other tennis player to be knighted in 1939.
I didn't even know that.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know he'd won it twice. It was Britain who won it twice.
Oh, so he's Australian.
Australian, no. Well, Rod Laver was the most famous...
what about Ken Rosewall?
Ken Rosewall.
I saw Ken Rosewall play. And
John Newcombe, I think.
John Newcombe and Tony Roach.
Tony Roach,
two of the great doubles partners, yeah. Well, I mean, I thought you couldn't be knighted if you were from a foreign land.
Oh, you can. I mean...
You just can't use it, though, can you?
Well, no, they're part of the Commonwealth, aren't they?
Yeah, so does that mean he can be?
Of course they can. There was a very famous New Zealand bowler.
Was there?
Who was knighted a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
Sir somebody, he played for New Zealand a lot.
Really?
He's a bowler. I think he was an all-rounder. But he did a lot of bowling, definitely.
Not Brabham or something?
No. He was a motor racing driver.
No, I'm not talking about the motor racing Brabham. Yeah. There was a guy there was a famous New Zealand cricketer, Kiwi cricketer.
Yeah.
Who's it wasn't Brabham, something like that.
No, Martin, his name was.
Not
his first name was Martin.
Martin?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
Sir Martin somebody. Yeah, no, seriously. Seriously, he was. I think he had a very sort of big, sort of ugly nose.
Really?
Big pinched nose, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I can't remember his name.
Never mind.
But,
now I don't care if people call me boring or miserable, says Andy.
Yeah.
Or Sir Andy.
Well, why should he? Why should he? You know.
Well, I guess there might have been a time when he did care.
Yes.
He says, after tennis, I want to coach and work in football. What about
that? He said what? He wants to work in football?
He wants to work in football.
Who, Andy Murray does?
Yeah.
Well, he likes the game.
He says, I'd like to have some kind of involvement in the sport because his father, or his grandfather, Roy Erskine, played for Hibs in the 1950s. And he also played for Arsenal.
And have you seen Andy Murray doing the old keepy-uppy with a tennis ball?
Eh?
With a tennis ball.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, he's very proficient at it.
He is.
Very proficient indeed.
Well, you can play that game as well where you play like football over a tennis net.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
That's quite good as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, well, there you are. I just thought that would cheer you up.
Yeah,
because I always point out things you get wrong.
No.
So I thought I might as well point out one or two things you get right.
I don't get much wrong. Listen, talking about...
Well, you got a lot wrong over the weekend.
I'm not going to go into that.
I mean, all the teams that you slagged off, as I said at the top of the show, Hull City beat Swansea. Brentford, who you often slag off because you claim that I shouldn't support them, and Millwall, who I was doing a big service to on Friday morning by saying that it was time we got behind them because this Wednesday, by the way, tomorrow is when they have this meeting, isn't it, to decide whether or not the compulsory purchase order of Millwall goes through.
I think you're right. I think it does. Did you notice the progress of the Lincoln game?
What do you mean, the progress?
Well, it was my charity bet, you see.
Yeah,
I said that Lincoln would beat Ipswich.
Wasn't it a draw?
5 minutes to go, and Lincoln were beating Ipswich 2-1. That would have been a massive priced win for me, which would have contributed to...
well, unfortunately, your charity...
To Main Sanctuary, which is my charity.
Didn't get any money, but mine did, because, of course, mine was Millwall beating Bournemouth.
Yes.
3-0.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Eddie Howe puts out a team of reserves, then that's going to happen, isn't it?
Although I must say, I was quite surprised to see so few people at the Den.
Yeah, I know.
There was a lot of spaces.
A lot of spaces. Now, listen, I am an animal lover, but also I do sometimes question the efficiency of our public services, OK? Now,
in what sense?
Well, in the sense that, are they really, doing what they're supposed to do? Now, one branch of the public service I will never question is the ambulance service, because when my mum slipped over a couple of years ago and broke her hip, they were on the scene very quickly. They were very efficient. Yeah. And I have to say, I have a lot to thank them for. Now, did you see the story over the weekend about an old lady, similar to sort of my mum's, because my mum is very able and gets about, but she is of a certain age. And this lady was being taken to hospital because she didn't feel well. And she had sort of what was later diagnosed as a gallbladder problem, which was making her vomit and that kind of stuff. Ooh. But on the way to hospital, I think it's a great story. The ambulance suddenly stopped. And, she didn't know why. She was still in the back and, I wish they'd started. I want to go to hospital. And then all of a sudden, the back door of the ambulance opens and a crazy Labrador dashes in.
Oh, yeah.
And starts bouncing around and licking her and, very excited, as Labradors are.
Yes,
You've got a Labrador dog yourself.
He does behave a little like that, yeah.
And, in fact, what had happened was, and I think this is very touching, the crew of the ambulance were driving her to the hospital,
right.
Addenbrooke's Hospital, which is a very famous hospital in Cambridgeshire, where they do heart transplants and things, And they saw this poor little dog. Well, it's not little, it's a Labrador, same size as yours.
Yeah.
Black Labrador, at the side of the road. And it looked bedraggled, it was shaking, it was shivering, it was nervous, it looked as though it was in terrible trouble. So they stopped and they picked it up and they put it in the back of the ambulance.
Right.
But it was
Are they allowed to do that? I'm surprised there's not some health and safety rule against that.
Well, this is the whole point. Are you allowed to do it or not? We don't know. But she thought she was hallucinating because she...
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when she got to hospital, and eventually got contact
So she's
with
in the back of the ambulance?
Yes.
They stopped to pick up a dog?
Yes, that's right.
And put it in the back of the ambulance?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, much as I love Labradors, I don't think I'd be too happy with that if I was the person in question.
She wasn't. She's a great grandmother, this lady. She's 86. Her name is Brenda Wildings.
Oh, yeah.
And she had collapsed at home, 999, ambulance comes, she's on her way to hospital, not feeling well, vomiting, and stops, door opens, next bounds in this beautiful Labrador dog. Now, some of the time you'd be quite, nice to see a Labrador dog, but not when you're feeling very ill.
But also not when you're being transported to hospital.
That's right, in an ambulance. She said the ambulance was taking me along the A10 to Addenbrooke's Hospital. It suddenly pulled over. I couldn't see much of what was going on, but I couldn't understand what was taking so long. I was left in the ambulance, but I could hear people outside talking about a dog. Next thing I knew, the paramedic who'd been riding in the back of the ambulance with me appeared with a black Labrador and asked if I minded if the dog came too. I was completely baffled. It's not what you expect in a medical environment, but I agreed. All I wanted to do was get to hospital. She said the Labrador was absolutely hyper, kept trying to jump on me while she lay in the back of the ambulance.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
She said the paramedic put a white board between me and the dog and held the Labrador away so it couldn't get at me. I had no idea what was going on. The paramedic said...
very weird.
The paramedic said, look, the dog was friendly, non-aggressive and quite clearly cold, wet and distressed when we discovered it and thought we'd better help it.
Well, why don't they put the dog in the front of the ambulance?
I'm not sure about that, to be honest.
Because, it's usually... normal ambulances have got a bench seat, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, yeah.
So you could put the Labrador in a bench seat. I mean, if you were a relative of this woman or her son or something, you'd be pretty appalled, wouldn't you?
Well, you'd be pretty appalled. But in their defence, they say, well, it wasn't a time-sensitive journey we were making. I mean, they're saying they already wasn't dying. And had.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
Well, they said it was not time-critical. But,
why is there an ambulance? I mean, this is the thing that's crazy about the way that some of these services run, right?
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this last week, that there was a programme on the local BBC News in London saying that some of these blue light ambulance drivers were only given 1 hour's training.
That's right,
as to how to drive at high speed through traffic in the middle of London.
That's right.
And yet, it's all right to put a dog in the back.
Well, it says now her granddaughter... said when Nan got to the hospital, we talked on the phone. She said she'd shared an ambulance with a wet dog. And, of course, we thought she was having hallucinations. Yeah. We thought she must have got confused. But she kept saying it over and over again. So we contacted the ambulance services to ask for an explanation.
Right.
And they said... They said that when the paramedics went to her house to pick her up, because she lives on her own, they saw a load of dog ornaments. So
dog ornaments?
Yeah.
What, so they thought it was her dog?
So they just assumed she must like dogs, so she won't mind if we stick a dog in the back with her and we go to hospital.
That's a very bizarre story.
Yeah. She says...
Because, I mean, I've heard stories of people who, say, for example, have had a problem with one of their kids or their partner or something like that, and if it is a critical situation, they don't let them in the back of the ambulance.
No, I know.
Even with their own child.
Don't know what, a dog?
No, not a dog, a person.
Oh, person, yeah, sorry,
if your wife is taken ill, and it's quite a serious thing, they sometimes don't let you travel in the ambulance.
No, that's absolutely right.
So, but apparently it's all right to put a dog in it.
So the granddaughter says, my nan might like dog ornaments, but that doesn't mean she wants to share an ambulance with a live one that is, hypersensitive when she's sick and vulnerable. I mean, it is a bizarre story.
It's a very weird story.
But I have to praise the ambulance drivers for this because, I mean, they clearly there was an act of kindness to try and rescue a poor old dog.
I think they should probably be reprimanded for it and told
Well,
not
it
to
says
do it
here, a
again.
spokesman for the East of England Ambulance Service said, we'd like to apologise to Brenda and her family for any distress and inconvenience. The incident is being investigated. Staff involved understand that their actions were against trust guidelines and there's no legal responsibility to stop for a domestic dog, even if they thought it was in danger. But fortunately, the good news is that Brenda is now very much better.
Right.
And
how's the dog?
The dog has been returned to its owner. They found the dog's owner and returned
so what? The dog wasn't even like a stray?
Well, they didn't know that.
So they actually kidnapped it?
Well, they didn't know
That's
that.
That's even worse.
No, they didn't know that.
They should have bloody known it.
They saw a poor dog cowering by the roadside.
Well, you shouldn't pick a dog up off the street.
No, I think it's good. I think sometimes...
That's typical of you.
I think sometimes...
But you don't want to cage animals, but you don't mind locking one in an ambulance.
Well, it wasn't locked in an ambulance. It was being rescued. And sometimes, I reckon...
False imprisonment.
I reckon dogs deserve more help on this world than humans. So I'm not against that at all.
Winford says this.
I think that was an act of kindness.
If Mike Parry's that bothered about lions locked in cages, I'm willing to pick him up and take him up there to unlock them.
I don't think you'd find me doing that, pal. Not unless I had a very long stick.
Yes, quite. Heroes and villains coming next. Time for a special round of heroes and villains. It's normally something that takes place on a Sunday when we do a show on a Sunday. We haven't done one for a while, though.
Yes.
So we've got 2 heroes and 2 villains.
Yes.
Would you like to go first?
Excuse me. Yes, okay.
If you're not ready, I don't want you to accuse me of trying to push you into it. All right, well, off you go then. What would you like to do first?
I'll do my first hero.
Okay.
It may seem a bit obvious, but it's got to be. It's Ronaldo. Because he has won just about everything you can win this calendar year, in the last 12 months, in terms of what a footballer can win. Captain of Portugal, who are European champions, captain of Real Madrid, top goal scorer on the continent, Golden Boot winner. It's endless.
Running away with the title so far as
Running away with the title this season, which inevitably will win. They're 5 points ahead already. You can't find a man who could qualify more as a hero than Ronaldo.
OK. Well, I'm going to do with a villain first, and it's going to be Mick Whelan, who's the General Secretary of ASLEF.
Right.
This is a guy who says that he doesn't want to cause any disruption to the general public, but continues to call incredibly damaging and difficult strikes all across southern England. The latest targets, by the way, who are inadvertent targets of ASLEF, a lot of students, right? Because they're basically unable to get to college, unable to get to do their lessons. He says this: we don't want anyone to miss out on their education. I spend most of my time in other arenas arguing about how unfair it is to have people saddled with tuition fees. So we're sorry if this is happening. Well, it is happening. And there's another one happening on Thursday, and there'll be another one happening next week. And basically, colleges are now saying they have to put on their own transport to get the students to come into the universities. Now, I know that many people will say, well, nobody has sympathy with students. But that's aside from all of the people who can't get to work, all of the people who have to take time off, all of the people who don't get paid because they're freelancers. And I just think this guy is having a laugh. And there was a little debate on it last night on TV. And, never the twain shall meet. It seems to me that every other train company that runs without extra members of staff on board seems to work perfectly well, seems to be perfectly safe, and only this particular company and ASLEF can't seem to get it right. Absolutely ridiculous.
And there has been an independent report saying that trains that run without conductors are perfectly safe.
Yeah.
An independent report.
Well, and every other train company manages to do it, so it's absolutely ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
Right.
So let's have your first villain then.
My first villain is David Cameron, the former Prime Minister.
What are you going to blame him for?
Well, it has been revealed in the last 48 hours that when they went to Tory party gatherings, like, for instance, a Tory party away day, he was always, obviously, the most important person there because he was the Prime Minister and leader of the Tory party.
Yes.
A fellow Tory party apparatchik, in fact, an MP called... Apparatchik, that's right. Jake Berry comes down in the morning after they'd had a convivial night the night before and is having breakfast with David Cameron, who's then the Prime Minister. He eats the toast on the table. Cameron goes mad and says, that was my toast.
Really?
Yeah, and Berry says, don't worry, Prime Minister, there's a machine over there, there's plenty more toast, I'll go make you some. He said, no, you idiot, don't you understand? My toast is special toast. And he said, why? He said, I have a person who cuts the crusts off for me. He wouldn't eat toast with crusts on.
Well, he cut his own crusts.
But he didn't. He said
So are you making him a hero or a villain?
I'm making him a villain.
Oh, right.
A villain.
I thought you'd look up to him.
No.
Because he went to a top school.
No.
He had a top job.
I'm making a villain because what he should have been doing is he should have been looking after the country. He should have been making sure that the country was running efficiently, that the Brexit vote or the Remain vote was a clear issue of which he had his mind made up about. He shouldn't have been worrying about £12.7 billion of overseas aid being frittered away by people who are wasting it. But no, he was worried about getting the crust cut off his toast. He actually said, I have somebody who cuts the crusts off for me. Sorry, villain.
Yeah, well, I don't think it doesn't make him look terribly good. I'm going to do my first hero. It's going to be Sutton United manager Paul Doswell.
Yeah.
Right, Sutton United, your local team. Unfortunately, you weren't able to get down to the old Gander Green Lane to watch the game at the weekend. But they got a very, very spirited 0-0 draw, didn't they?
Yeah.
With AFC Wimbledon. And they're going to go, I think, a week on Tuesday for the replay.
Yeah.
But he's come out and said, quite rightly, that the BBC were entirely wrong not to actually broadcast the third round tie.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time, really, that they'd played a game there since 1989 in the third round.
That's right.
And, I mean, I can't understand why they weren't there either. I mean, Talk Sport were there. Adrian Durham was there.
Yeah.
Because that was obviously the game to be at if you wanted, the magic of the FA Cup.
Yeah,
and
but
all
in
that.
light of it, it was a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, but it was a very spirited
boring
0-0.
game.
It was not a boring game.
And frankly, it would have been very poor entertainment for a very few number of people.
No, I don't agree.
Well, I wouldn't have suddenly.
The whole point,
switch a telly on. It's a non-league game.
Well, we keep hearing all about the FA Cup and why it should either be abolished or why it should be kept. And there's no doubt that this is not a tournament any longer for Premier League teams.
Well,
most Premier League managers have bottled it. Most of them have pulled the wrong squad out. Most of them have shown great disrespect to some of the teams further down the various leagues, right, and even out of the league.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what they should be televising instead of Liverpool against Plymouth Argyle.
I think that's a pretty rubbish one, to be honest.
Well, let's hear your next. What is your next villain or your next hero?
My next villain.
Yeah.
Is, of course, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Because, look, I don't care what her political views are. She can be as right-wing or as left-wing as she wants. She can be Republican or Democratic. She can be Labour or Conservative. But to use an awards ceremony where you're actually being praised for your skill and your ability in your own profession, but then, because you're on a platform, to decide that you will try and influence the way people of America think, even though they have spoken in an election just a month ago, is wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but, you can't just be an actress one moment and then want to be a serious political judge the next. Just keep your nose out of it, get on with earning your millions as an actress and shut your gob.
And don't keep telling everyone your heart's been broken.
Exactly.
By something that was said by someone you don't know.
Exactly.
To someone else you don't know.
Exactly.
Which does seem a little bit far-fetched, doesn't
it?
I don't disagree with you on that one. My second villain of the piece is John Terry. Because John Terry hasn't had much of a season, has he, so far?
None.
He's not been able to play for Chelsea for various reasons. He supposedly has been helping Antonio Conte very much in the dressing room.
Yes.
But he won't have helped him in the dressing room by having got on finally to play for the team and gets himself sent off in the second half of their 4-1 win over Peterborough. What makes it worse as well, right, is he's apparently appealing the red card.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, if he doesn't get it appealed, he's going to serve a one-match ban, and he will miss Saturday's Premier League game against Leicester.
Well, he'd have missed it anyway.
Is anyone really expecting him to play anymore this season?
Well, I think he took one for the team because I thought that.
But they were playing Peterborough.
I know, but he had to stop that goal going in. I mean, remember, Chelsea got knocked out of the FA Cup away to somebody minor 2 seasons ago when they won the title. Didn't they?
I think they may have done.
Yeah. So they didn't win the double that year. So somebody knocked them out.
But it might not have been somebody minor. It might have been somebody up in the northeast of England.
No, I think it was somebody minor. But anyway, what I'm saying is these mishaps can happen. So he took one for the team. But you're absolutely right. It won't have helped him to elongate his distinguished career at Chelsea.
Exactly right. So you've got one final hero, I think.
My final hero has to be, and I'm going to stand up when I say this, Her Majesty the Queen.
Why are you standing up?
Well, I stood up because, in respect to Her Majesty the Queen, because, of course, we all thought that she may have contracted...
Well, there were nefarious people putting it out and about that she may have something very serious wrong with
pneumonia or something like that. In fact, she missed the Christmas Day service at Sandringham, followed by the New Year's Day service, so we all thought this is not good. But now she has made a church appearance since, which has made us all feel very grateful that she's back on her feet and at 90 years of age remains the beacon of inspiration, light and leadership in this country.
Really?
That's all I can say.
Is that, you want to do any more grovelling to her?
I'm not grovelling, I'm merely stating the position.
OK. Now, the one name that you've missed out in all of this, and I know it's because you don't share my regard for him, it is, of course, Claudio Ranieri, who's my final hero of the week.
Dilly-ding, dilly-dong.
He was crowned World Coach of the Year. I mean, you're going on about Ronaldo, right? Everybody knows Ronaldo is probably the best player in the world. If he's not, he's the second best player in the world.
Yes.
What everybody doesn't know is that Claudio Ranieri has done incredible things at Leicester. Everybody's now...
where are they at the moment, sorry?
They are in the Champions League knockout stage, and they are still the champions of the Premier League. Where they end up in the following, this season is anybody's guess, but that's not the point. The people at FIFA who give out awards, and if they're good enough to give an award to Ronaldo for being the best player of the year, I think you also have to respect their judgment in giving it to Claudio Ranieri, because, the guy has done wonders. He's not Jose Mourinho. He is not, Antonio Conte. He's not Pep
where
Guardiola.
are his team in the English Premier League at the moment?
It doesn't matter where they are in the Premier League.
Well, he might as well let us know then.
He has been crowned Coach of the Year.
Coach of the
right?
Year. Okay.
And Coach of the Year is a calendar year. I mean, Leicester may end up higher than Everton before the end of the season, so I wouldn't get too cocky about that. Don't forget, they knocked Everton out of the FA Cup.
Yes.
They're still in the FA Cup. They're still in the Champions League. They're still in the Premier League.
I'm very aware of that.
And so, I think they're going pretty well, and I think he deserves the credit, and I'm very glad he got it.
Yes, okay.
So those are my heroes, Claudio Ranieri and Sutton United and their manager, John Terry, my villain, and, of course, Mick Whelan from Aslef.
And, of course, my villains, David Cameron and Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
And heroes, Ronaldo and Her Majesty the Queen.
So we'll ask Mr. Levine to check those over the course of the next...
Well, I hope he knows what he's doing.
few moments, and he can give us his answer when we come back. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Hey, hey, hey! Hey, hey, hey! Life is the same, it always will be. Hey, hey, hey! Easy picking foxes from a tree. Hey, hey, hey! But I can't get no satisfaction. All I want is easy action. Hey, hey, hey! Hey, hey, hey!
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Here's a tweet from Chris, who says Richard Hadley is the Kiwi cricketer. Martin Crowe was the batsman, and he's dead.
That's him.
I'm shocked that Fred Perry or Bunny Austin were not knighted.
Yes, absolutely right.
And it was Don Bradbury, I think, was the guy that I was thinking of. The the cricketer.
Yes.
Don Bradman. Sorry,
Bradman. He was Australian, actually.
Was he Australian?
Yeah, he was known as the Brad.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
The only reason I confuse him occasionally with a Kiwi is because
he's known as the Don, I think, actually. Not the Brad.
Maybe. But he was very much the favourite cricketer of my old friend Graham Henry.
Really?
He was the All Blacks coach, which is why I sometimes used to confuse him with being a Kiwi.
Yes, of course.
So there we are.
Yes.
Anyway, Mr. Levine has turned up. He's going to give us the verdict on... he's going to give us the verdict on...
Better be the right one.
Well, I don't know why he's being so snitty about it. No. Well, would you like to give us the verdict, Mr. Levine?
Well, I thought, actually some very good candidates throughout, but I think there was one person that had the better 4 overall, despite not having the favourite of mine individually, the winner. Mr. Parry, would you care to open the little envelope?
Thank you. Right, I shall
and tell who the winner is.
Golden Globes. This. You're not going to make a speech
winner?
About South Sudan or anything, are you? Hey,
Mike Parry is the winner.
Look how excited he is. Now, if I'd won that, right, you would have been the usual chorus of complaints about gerrymandering, about paying people off.
No.
I'm not going to make such accusations. I'm quite happy to be big once in a while.
You did have my favourite,
which was
the strikers.
Yeah.
But Mike Parry overall had all 4 better.
All right. Well, that makes it about 8-2 to me, I think.
Thank you very much indeed.
About 8-2. Do you want to keep doing this every week?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should.
You like the heroes and villains?
Oh, I think so,
definitely. So it is about 8-2, so you've got some catching up to do.
No, we started all over again. It's 1-0.
Oh, you'd like to start a new game?
Well, it's 2017, man.
Oh, you want us? Oh, man?
Yeah.
Is it man?
Yeah.
It's the year, man.
Yeah. So, just remember that, will you?
That's just your opinion,
so that's
dude.
1-0, okay?
All right, you want to make it 1-0 to you?
Of course.
I'll give you a lead.
Yeah, well, you don't need to.
I'll give you a head start of 1.
Well,
this is the new game.
Yeah, new game.
Okay. Well, why didn't you say that before we decided to have it judged?
So
excited.
Brilliant. Oh, it's brilliant, I'm telling you.
James says this: Mike Parry can dismiss the brilliance of Ranieri's achievement, yet go on about Koeman as a tactical genius. It's quite beyond me.
I haven't referred to Mr. Koeman as a tactical genius.
Are you sure?
Not in the show tonight, anyway. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that he has so much to offer Everton that may well emerge. I can't say that it won't.
Def says this: did Porky not just do exactly what Meryl Streep did by using his platform to praise the Queen?
No. I mean, the Queen is the head of our constitution. She's head of the Church of England, of which I'm a worshipper.
You are not a worshipper of the Church of England. When's the last time you were worshipping
at
the altar of the Church of England of any kind?
I can't get there every week.
Well, you haven't been there this year, have you?
What?
Have you been there this year?
Do you know what I was going to talk to you about? I was going to talk to you about nepotism, because Donald Trump's
you haven't answered
son,
the question. Have you been to the Church of England this year? Or any church?
There's only been 10 days in this year so far.
Oh,
so no.
Well, if you were such a worshipper, though, surely you'd have gone.
Well, I haven't.
Well, let me just give you one piece of information first. Ian says Bradford knocked Chelsea out, guys. They beat them 4-2.
Bradford.
The FA Cup.
That's the one.
Bradford.
That's the one. Yeah. Now, Donald Trump's son-in-law,
yes,
Jared Kushner, is expected to be named.
This is Ivanka's husband, right?
Ivanka's husband, quite right, is expected to be named as one of his top advisors inside the White House. Now, why is there a big fuss about this? What's the problem?
Well, the problem is...
He's not blood related to him.
Well, yeah, but the problem is he's married to his daughter, right?
Yeah.
Now, his daughter is going to be running his businesses, right? While he's president.
Yes.
So it's all a bit sort of... it's all a bit unsavoury, to be honest. And I mean, whichever view you take of Donald Trump and the revolution that he has caused, there are certain things... Yeah. That I think, in terms of things like conflict of interest...
It can't be closer than JFK and Robert Kennedy, can it?
Well, Robert Kennedy was the Attorney General.
Yes, he was.
Robert Kennedy was a highly qualified lawyer.
And not only that, as a result of that partnership in politics, is one reason why this has now been put under the spotlight. Because after JF Kennedy was assassinated, laws were introduced, and they were called the anti-nepotism laws.
Well, don't forget, Robert was also assassinated.
Yeah, of course he was, sadly. The anti-nepotism laws were to try and stop families monopolising the White House, because their father also had a huge influence on it. Exactly. However, I have always been of the view that the people you most trust in life are usually your family over anybody else, and therefore...
but he's not running a business any longer. He's running the country,
yes,
right?
Yes, but...
And so you should have the best qualified people as your advisors, who might not always be the people who you're closest to.
No, what I'm saying is that if you're running a country or running a business, you need people around you to help you make the right decisions, OK? And I've always found...
they should always be the best qualified, shouldn't they?
Well, I think the best qualified are people who are family members who do it because they want you to get it right, not for any other political reason.
I would generally speaking disagree with that.
No, I don't have a problem with... I have a problem with nepotism if the people involved are clearly unsuited and unqualified.
Well, what qualifies
this
guy to be an aide, then?
He's a very successful businessman in his own right.
Is he?
Yes. And
how do we know that?
Well, his daughter Ivanka has married him, and you marry people for lots of reasons. One of the reasons you marry somebody is because they have the personality and character to be a successful person. Okay, so I don't really see a problem with it at all. In fact, you see Donald Trump as a man who has a sort of extended family because he's been married more than one time.
He's the publisher of the New York Observer weekly newspaper, which is an absolute pile of old cobblers, I have to tell you.
Well, you may say that, but
it's true.
But it puts him into the public arena in the sense that he's dealt with people before, and quite frankly, I don't see what all the fuss is about. You see so many businesses where sons take over from their fathers, where they work alongside their fathers, where husbands and wives work together very successfully, and I think that's all. A lot of that is based on a base, on the position of trust between people within the same family.
Well, the problem here, right, is that Trump is rewriting the rules, which he's entitled to do up to a point. But as some have said, in terms of the appointments he's making to his cabinet,
excuse me,
I don't. For example, I don't have a problem with him appointing very wealthy people to run various departments of the government.
Yes,
because it may be that then they're not doing it for the money, which is good, and it may also be that they can bring a certain sort of efficiency to the running of government. That's fine. However, with a guy like this who runs, don't forget, including the New York Observer, he also runs the family's real estate company.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He's now apparently going to step down from that so that he would recuse himself from particular matters that would have a direct and predictable effect on his remaining financial interests.
Sure.
So, I mean, if anybody really believes that Donald Trump and his son-in-law and everybody else associated with his companies is not going to have anything to do with those companies while they're in charge of the White House, and that they're not going to make sure, they're going to make sure that no laws are passed which might benefit them directly, I just don't believe it.
But you can't separate a man like Donald Trump entirely from all his business responsibilities.
Well, no, you have to.
Otherwise, his business empire would collapse.
Well, yeah, but he has to.
Well,
and this guy who is his CEO of all of his real estate holdings is also going to absent himself.
Yeah.
But my point is that of course they're not going to do that, even though they're saying they are, and that already is the first breach of trust with the people, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, because the argument being put forward, as I understand it, is that you can't get involved in nepotism if you are in charge of an agency of the government. But this guy's only going as an advisor. The White House technically is not an agency. The White House is where they live.
That's right. And he will be, as what they call it, a West Wing type.
Yes, that's right.
Which is, Trump is arguing that this is not covered by the nepotism rules.
Exactly.
He can make anybody.
Exactly.
In the same way that Cameron did, and in the same way that Blair did, they can make anybody personal advisors. But this guy as well has had a very key role in Trump's campaign. But he's also now taking part in lots of conversations with people in the Middle East. Now, the American system allows that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that he's the guy that should be doing it. I mean, it's all very well having a president who's never had any political office before. But do you really want a load of advisors who've never had any political office before either?
Well, I think it brings a fresh line of thinking to the whole
what's he going to do?
operation.
Walk into Jerusalem and suddenly find that he finds peace in the Middle East?
No, but
he's not, is he?
No, but you have to take it from a different point of view. The reason that Donald Trump is, in my view, going to be quite an exciting president is because he just cuts to the quick. From what I've seen so far, there's not a question of, diplomacy, not a question of long negotiations.
He doesn't react well to criticism, does he?
No, he doesn't.
What do you think he's going to do when the first thing goes wrong?
He sees something and he says, before we get to that point, he sees something and he says, well, shouldn't we be doing this?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we get on with that? Why don't we get the guy who's run Ford for so long to be the guy who's in head of industry in this country and all that kind of stuff?
But we shouldn't forget
and I think he's very, very practically minded.
Well, yeah, we shouldn't forget as well. He's a pretty ruthless guy, which, again, don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
But he is not, the be-all and end-all of the best kind of economic advisors and the best economic sort of plan of there's ever been.
Well,
lots of his companies have been unsuccessful. Lots of the things that he's got involved in have resulted in lawsuits.
But most
and this is not me with a downer on Trump. These are just the facts.
Most businessmen get things wrong. Every businessman.
That's what I mean. But he's being treated by his kind of supporters as the greatest kind of businessman that ever lived. He's not.
But I don't think there's a businessman on earth who hasn't at some stage found himself in
would you put
difficult
Philip
situations.
Green in Downing Street?
No.
Why not?
Because I think that he has blatantly demonstrated his lack of concern for
How is he different from Trump?
His fellow countrymen. Well, I don't think Trump ever dumped $500 million worth of debt onto pensioners who couldn't get their pension money.
Have you read some of the things that used to happen in the Trump real estate company in Queens?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've read about all those sort of things. Yeah. But in the end, he stands as a man who put himself in front of the people, and the people in the end elected him and said, "Come and represent us as our commander-in-chief."
You and I both agreed is more down to Hillary Clinton than it is to him. To be honest, she was such a terrible candidate.
For whatever reason, it's down to it's where he is. If Sir Philip Green stood as a politician tomorrow, he would be laughed out of his first parish council meeting.
Yes. And, of course, all of these other appointments that he's making, Secretary of State, various, 9, I think he's made 9 appointments, Homeland Security, everything else. They all have to be verified by the Senate and passed by the Senate.
Oh, yeah, they've got to go into the selection committees
if they start rejecting some of those, can you imagine the vitriol that's going to come out of him? Because, I mean, look at how he reacts to Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just ignored that, but he decided not to.
Well,
from a journalist point of view, it's great. But, I mean, is it presidential for him to say she's the most overrated actress that's ever been?
It depends what you mean by presidential. I mean, for instance, during Mr. Cameron's time as Prime Minister, one of the least successful in my lifetime, somebody wrote a book with a very funny but ridiculous suggestion that he once inserted a part of his anatomy into a pig's mouth, the sort of pig that was on a table.
Mind you, that was in a book written by somebody
who didn't like him.
Have to say I wouldn't entirely trust.
And who didn't like him. Well, whether you trust it or not, the allegation was made. And Mr. Cameron chose to ignore it. So that stands now as an unchallenged accusation.
Well, because he took a view.
I think you should respond to these
he took a view that it would be rather ridiculous to even acknowledge the fact that it was, and the book came and went without very much fanfare.
Yeah, but the rest of us wanted to know.
I didn't care.
And that may be one reason.
Care?
I wanted to know, really. I wanted to know how he would respond to it. And that may be one of the reasons now why Mr. Cameron's no longer in power. Maybe people thought we don't want to be led by this guy anymore.
He's no longer in power because he made a colossal error.
Yeah.
Which was to have a referendum about Europe.
I totally agree. And a lot of people might have said, actually, I don't agree with Cameron on this at all. I'm going to vote for the other side. Yeah. Because he made the daft decision to actually lead the campaign instead of acting as arbiter and saying, we'll have a campaign, there'll be two sides. I'll be in the middle.
That's enough politics. How about this from Wrong Star? Two good heroes and villains, but Porky standing for the Queen has swayed it for me. MG wins.
Oh, you see, that's the sort of...
it doesn't go to the public on this particular occasion.
Perverse thinking. Supporters of your mob, get around to thinking.
Now, I don't want you to ruin this competition like you ruined the last one by encouraging people to vote too many times. No. Gerrymander it. Get people organised. From porn sites and all the rest of it. I don't want any of that because we want to run a clean campaign. We want to run it well. We want to be proud of it. And, so you can tell your children about it or whatever. This is Talk Sport.
Look at the light! Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the two mics. Thank heavens for little girls.
Well, I think you may have been putting too much into that.
Because little girls get bigger every day.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, is this lecherous old French guy, right, who's looking at all these little girls and thinking, ooh, they get bigger every day.
I don't think he meant it like that.
And now the blade has moved to the first door of the fire station, and in half an hour's time, it'll be passing the second door.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1 a.m. on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM, and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station, with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.